Hi guys, it's me Chaz HD and welcome to the race watch along for the 2019 Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal at the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve here in Canada. I am so pumped up for this race today. So is Nib, who will be along with us later on. And yeah, I'm just so pumped up for this stream. Cannot wait to see what happens on race day. Cannot wait to see who wins the Grand Prix. It's going to be very competitive at the top, also competitive for the podium. In the midfield, it is going to be a very good race in my opinion. We have so many stories to talk about in the build-up to the Canadian Grand Prix. And of course, the Canadian Grand Prix will be taking place in just under 1 hour's time. Great to see, by the way, so many of you already here as I start the stream. Great to have you all here. And no matter where you're on the world, hopefully you are having a good Sunday. What is for me late Sunday afternoon, early Sunday evening. So yeah, hopefully you're all having a good day. But if you missed out on the crazy and fantastical events of qualifying, let me now take you through the results of what happened. So here are those results. Sebastian Vettel took pole position for the first time in almost a year for Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton finished in second. Charles Leclerc third. Daniel Ricciardo, incredibly, I still can't believe he did it, finishing up in P4. Pierre Gasly P5. Valtteri Bottas P6. Nico Hülkenberg P7. Lando Norris in P8. Carlos Sainz qualified P9 but got a penalty for blocking Alexander Albon during qualifying, so he will start the Grand Prix from P11. And then 10th was Magnussen, who will start from the pit lane because he completely destroyed his car. And then P11 is Max Verstappen, who will start in P9. P12 was Danny Kvyat, who will start in P10. And then Giovinazzi was 13th. Albon 14th, Grosjean 15th. And then knocked out in Q1 was Sergio Perez, Kimi Raikkonen, Lance Stroll, George Russell and Robert Kubica. Very exciting qualifying, and I think that does set us up nicely for a good Grand Prix today in Montreal. But of course, let's go into previewing the top teams and how I think they are going to get on in today's race. So let's start with Mercedes, who will definitely be disappointed that they didn't get pole position. It was definitely possible for them, but Lewis Hamilton just didn't have, with that Mercedes car, enough speed in the end to go and get pole position. But I don't think Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes are that well, they're going to be disappointed obviously in not getting pole position, but they won't be massively disappointed because they know that they can absolutely take on and beat Ferrari over 70 laps in the Canadian Grand Prix. And I think Lewis Hamilton does have, just like Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari, a very good chance of doing so. It's going to be tough though on tyres, on his car. By the way, just to let you guys know, Mercedes are currently putting Lewis Hamilton's car back together as they found a hydraulic leak on his car. They have fixed that but are now putting his car back together. He should be ready for the Canadian Grand Prix. But it is going to be tough for Hamilton to win. I think he absolutely can, again, like Sebastian Vettel can, but it will be a tough race on tyres and also his own car. And hopefully we get a great battle for the win. For Valtteri Bottas, well, he really did, you have to say, crack under pressure in qualifying, making critical errors when it mattered. For the race, I think Valtteri's aim has to be to get onto the podium. Yes, if chaos happens ahead, maybe he can compete for the win, but realistically, I think if he can get a podium, that would be a good result considering where Valtteri is starting this Grand Prix from. So I think Mercedes, they do have the possibility of still having a very successful race, but it is going to be tough because their competitors are a bit more competitive than they have been in the past. Next up is Ferrari. Ferrari yesterday, for the first time really since Bahrain, showcased very strong pace as Sebastian Vettel took pole position in Canada with a great final lap, and Ferrari definitely are looking strong for this Grand Prix. For Vettel, he can definitely win today, no doubt about it, but he has to really drive the socks off that car, because Hamilton and Mercedes are going to push them so hard to get the victory. So they're going to have to give it everything and leave nothing out there at the end of the race if they are to go and get the victory. So Vettel, if he can produce the type of pace and brilliance he did yesterday in qualifying, then I think Sebastian will be right there for the victory, no doubt about that. For Charles Leclerc, disappointing in terms of his lap time compared to his teammate in qualifying, but in terms of his position, I think he is satisfied with where he's starting the Grand Prix from. And Charles Leclerc can definitely win today, but I think it's more likely to be either Vettel or Hamilton, because I think Leclerc just hasn't been, say, as on it as Vettel or Hamilton have at this track this weekend. And also Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton are very good around this track. Charles Leclerc is good, but not so much. So if Leclerc can improve his pace, maybe we will see a three-way battle for the win. But realistically, I think it will be a two-way battle between Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton. Hopefully we get it today in Canada. And next up is Red Bull, who had, I think, a disappointing qualifying. Max Verstappen, of course, qualifying P11 because of Kevin Magnussen's crash that really cost him. And then Pierre Gasly qualifying 5th. He did out-qualify Valtteri Bottas, but got out-qualified embarrassingly by Daniel Ricciardo in the Renault. For Red Bull today, really they just need to go out there and be as aggressive as possible and see what happens, because let's be honest, they are going to make progress from the positions they are starting in, realistically. So if they go for it and see what happens, they should get a decent result, I think. I think Max Verstappen, first off, if he does start on, say, the hard compound tyre, which I think he will, I wouldn't be surprised if Max is one of the fastest drivers on track in the first stint of the Grand Prix, because the hard tyres, or the harder the tyre you're on, I think will really, benefit you in this Grand Prix. So look out for Max Verstappen in the first 10 or 15 laps. For Pierre Gasly, let's be honest, he's not expected to beat Valtteri Bottas, so if he finishes behind him, fair enough, because the Mercedes car is better, and also Bottas is better than Gasly. But Pierre absolutely has to beat Daniel Ricciardo. No doubt about it. He cannot lose to Daniel Ricciardo. If he does, then that is probably the nail in the coffin of his Red Bull career. I don't see how he can possibly recover from that embarrassment of being out-qualified and then being outraced by Daniel Ricciardo in a car that is clearly slower than his. So he has to beat Ricciardo today. But for Red Bull, yeah, hopefully they just go up there, give it their all, and see what happens and get a result that is a bit better than what they have so far on the grid. But before I go on to the midfield, guys, let me know right now in the live chat, for the top teams, what do you think is going to happen for Mercedes? Do you think Mercedes can win today? And do you think Valtteri Bottas can get onto the podium? For Ferrari, do you think they can absolutely win? And do you think it'll be Sebastian Vettel winning? Or do you think it'll be Charles Leclerc winning if you do think Ferrari are going to win? And for Red Bull, what should they do to improve their result? And what can they do, in your opinion, to improve their result? Let me know right now in the live chat, and I'll read out as many comments as I can for the next 10 minutes or so, and then we'll move on to the midfield. But I just want to say, don't forget, guys, to subscribe for more content like this, as we do watch-alongs for practice 2, qualifying, and the race for every single F1 race weekend. So don't forget to subscribe for that. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there, or go to my homepage in my channel, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell. And also, don't forget to hit the video with a like if you do like this type of content. But I think now, as I usually do, I'll have a quick drink after the first 10 minutes of this stream, and then we'll get to reading a lot of your comments. Right, so let's see. what you guys have to say in the chat. By the way, great to see so many of you here in the chat and watching live already. Already almost 200 of you. So yeah, great to see every single one of you. Right, let's read some comments. By the way, Astro Stevo, if you refresh your link, then I should be live. I think that's probably the issue you've had there. Crystal Racing says Vettel has the legs on Leclerc, no question. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Francisco asks, how worried should we be for Hamilton's reliability? I would say a bit for two reasons. Because one, it's a new power unit, and when you bring a new type of equipment, it is common for things to go wrong on its debut. Nothing always goes absolutely smoothly when you bring something new to your car. But also, Lance Stroll had quite a big failure of his, I don't think it was his power unit, but it was some kind of hydraulic issue in practice 3. So there is concern to be had, no doubt about it. But Mercedes, as we've seen, most of the time since 2014 are bulletproof when it comes to reliability. So, yeah, definitely be concerned, but not massively, because I think they'll most likely get away with it. Right, let me read some more comments. Matthew Felton says, don't believe beating Ricciardo by race end will be a problem for Gasly. The tell will be how long it takes him to get past. Well, we'll see. Pierre Gasly should beat Daniel Ricciardo today because Pierre Gasly is in a much faster car. But as we saw in qualifying, if Ricciardo performs like he did and performs at his absolute best, then Gasly could end up, finishing behind if he doesn't do enough in his car. So he should beat him, no doubt about it, should Pierre, but I don't think it's necessarily a guarantee, but we'll see. Jungle Brother says, hey Chaz, thanks for doing this watch along. No problem. Also, Powell Novak says, I want Reds to win so much. Thanks, Chazza, no problem. Francisco says, Ricciardo can beat Gasly for sure. And also says, this track is tough to pass on though. Right, let me find some more comments from you guys. And yet, Robert, you are right. Hamilton does or did have a hydraulic issue, but I believe it's now fixed. Someone's saying that Max can still win. I don't think he can. I think if the safety car comes out, say, midway through the Grand Prix, then his chances are more than none, but realistically, his chances are 0 to win the race. But if there is a safety car at the right time, considering the tyres he starts on, which won't be the soft tyres, then you never know. You never know. He could get into that battle, but we'll see, of course, in the race. But also, the Red Bull car just hasn't been anywhere near Ferrari or Mercedes this weekend. So even if they're on better tyres, that doesn't necessarily mean Red Bull this weekend are going to compete with them, because they, again, just haven't been as quick. Right, let me find some more comments for the next 5 minutes. Crystal Racing says, and it is true, Red Bull Honda's lack of grunt down the straights will be a problem for Max. Yeah, it will. By the way, if you want to know what the current power unit situation is in Canada this weekend, Ferrari do have still the best power unit on the grid in terms of power output. Then it's Mercedes in second, Renault are third, and then Honda are fourth when it comes to the speed traps. So, yeah, if you're running Honda power this weekend, compared to the other engine manufacturers, you are not in great shape. I think Honda Power's still doing all right, but this weekend it's not doing, say, as well as I think Honda and Red Bull were hoping for this weekend. Let me find some more comments. Matthew Felton says, this is the first race this season, going by my memory, that Verstappen has had to push up from behind P10. So I'm kind of looking forward to that, but I would think it will keep Verstappen off the podium. Yeah, this season, Max hasn't started, I think, lower than 5th. I don't think he has. So that is really going to affect him in his chances, to try and get onto the podium. I think, again, race win, he doesn't have a chance. Podium, it kind of does depend on what happens to Vettel, Hamilton, Leclerc and Bottas. And also, if Ricciardo can hold up Gasly and Bottas for long enough, then he will bring Max Verstappen into that battle. And then if there's, a retirement ahead of Vettel, Hamilton or Leclerc, then maybe Verstappen could capitalise that way. But I don't think Max will be on the podium today. I think the best he can do is probably finish in 5th, maybe 4th place, depending on what happens to Gasly and Bottas when they come up against Ricciardo. But yeah, we'll see. Right, let me find a couple more comments. And then we'll go on to the midfield. And JB making the point, and it is true, Verstappen is great at comeback drives. He absolutely is. For example, US Grand Prix of 2017, came from the back and finished in P4, almost got P3. And in 2018 at the US Grand Prix, he started, I think, 15th and finished in 2nd and was only a second off winning the Grand Prix. So, if he can have that type of pace, maybe he can get on the podium. But again, realistically, if you look at the way Red Bull have been this weekend, they just haven't been that quick to be in that type of position, even if they were in the position that they should be in on the grid. But right, I'll read out one final comment and then we'll move on to the midfield. And the final comment I'll read out is from Jungle Brother, who says, and it's a great point, I think Ricciardo needs an early safety car to get off those soft tyres and maintain his top 4 position. Well, he won't want it to come out too early if he does want to pit under a safety car, because he doesn't want to have a situation like Monaco where he pits for new tyres but then gets held up so much he then loses track position and time to the cars that he's racing against. So he has to be, and well, not he, but Renault have to be smart in how they pit him from the soft tyres to what is likely to be the hard compound. By the way, we'll get onto tyres and the situation with tyres later on. The quickest strategy for today's Grand Prix is to start on the medium, do 35 to 40 laps and then go on to the hard. That is the quickest strategy in this Grand Prix. And we do know for a fact that Vettel, Hamilton, Leclerc and Bottas are going to start on the medium tyres. So that's what they are likely to do. And then, of course, Ricciardo, Gasly, Hülkenberg and Norris will start on the soft compound tyre. But there you go, there is the top teams. Now let's get into the midfield and get into Renault. And again, Daniel Ricciardo, great job yesterday with a stunning lap. One of, if not the best performance of 2019 so far by any driver in any session. It was honestly that great by Daniel Ricciardo. What can he do today? And what can Renault do today in this race? Well, realistically, if Max Verstappen comes through like we're expecting him to, and all of the top 3 teams finish the Grand Prix without any reliability issues, then Renault should finish in P7 and P8 like they did last year. And then if there is any retirements ahead, then that is, of course, a bonus. The interesting thing to see in the opening parts of the Grand Prix for me will be, can Ricciardo keep up with the cars ahead? Not, be quick or anything like that, but will he be able to not lose an absolute ton of time to the cars ahead? And can he keep Gasly and Bottas behind? That's going to be very interesting for me to see in the opening part of the Grand Prix. Realistically, I don't think he will. I wouldn't be surprised if by lap 10, Gasly and Bottas have already passed him and are already pulling away quite comfortably. But if he can stay ahead and have good pace, you never know. You really do never know. Ricciardo could be finishing in the top 5 today or even higher. And for Nico Hülkenberg, well, considering his teammates in P4, of course, his performance is overlooked compared to Ricciardo. So for him, all he has to do really is go out there and push as hard as possible and get the best result he can. Because as long as Nico Hülkenberg finishes, I think, in the top 8, that will be a good enough result. So that's what Hülkenberg really does have to do. But for Renault, as long as they finish, say, again, P7 and P8 at worst with their 2 cars, then for me, that is good enough, a good enough result from this Grand Prix. Next up is McLaren, who had a good qualifying, but it wasn't maybe as good as they were expecting in 8th and 9th. Of course, Carlos Sainz now drops back to P11 with that penalty, but Lando Norris does start in P8. Now, McLaren, as we know, in terms of race pace, tend to be very strong. So they should, both McLarens really today should be finishing in the top 10 and scoring more points and pulling away from certain other teams in the midfield battle. The only thing they've got to do really is, for me, stay out of trouble. And they will do that because I really do think they have that good a pace to finish in the top 10 and it not be, dramatically hard for them to do so. So yeah, as long as they stay out of trouble, McLaren, they really should be finishing in the top 10. Hopefully they do, because it is great to see McLaren having such a great start to 2019. And hopefully they continue today to build on those great results in the last few races. And I think the very good result of yesterday in qualifying. Next up is Alfa Romeo, who you have to say they really have, in that midfield battle, dropped back compared to where they were, say in Bahrain or even Shanghai. They really have dropped back, and it looks as though Alfa now do have possibly the worst midfield car at the moment in terms of sheer aerodynamic grip, because we know when it comes to power, the Alfa is fine because it has a Ferrari power unit. But aerodynamically, the car it looks heavy. It doesn't look like it has a ton of grip, especially compared to cars like the Renault and McLaren, even Toro Rosso, and even the Haas. So yeah, Alfa really are struggling at the moment. Giovinazzi in the Alfa does start P12. So if there is chaos ahead, you never know. They could nick a point. And Kimi Räikkönen, of course, is starting P16 with Kevin Magnussen starting from the pit lane. As long as Alfa, if they can go out there and get a point, then I think that'd be a good enough result. Because I don't think, honestly, they're expected to finish in the points. So as long as they go out there and get a top 10, that would be great. But I'm not expecting them to. They don't realistically have a quick enough car to do so. They, you could argue, with Racing Point, have the worst car in the midfield. So yeah, not looking good for Alfa, but if they can capitalise on other people's errors and misfortune, you never know, they could nick a vital point. Next up is Haas, who really did have a chaotic session, of course, with Kevin Magnussen crashing, then Romain Grosjean getting knocked out in what was at the time 15th, but you will of course start the Grand Prix from P14. P14 and the pit lane is where Haas are starting from with Grosjean and K-Mag. And for them, really like Red Bull, because they're starting a bit further back than they probably thought they would be, they just need to go out there and go for it and see what happens, because they've got nothing to lose starting from 14th and 20th. Nothing to lose whatsoever. So hopefully they just go out there and attack. These two drivers we know can attack, sometimes a bit too hard, but if they can utilise, you know, the good Ferrari straight line speed at the back straight and even the pit straight, then if the Haas car, you know, is performing well enough, I wouldn't be too surprised if they did get near the points, if not nick a point in this Grand Prix, because we know, again, with that Ferrari power unit, they can absolutely make moves on that back straight and also on the pit straight. So Haas, hopefully, just go out there and absolutely go for it and see what happens. Next up is Toro Rosso. Their starting position is pretty good for the Grand Prix. P10 and P13 with Kvyat and Albon respectively. Pretty good for them considering how I thought they would be, say, for the race in terms of where they were going to start from. I didn't think they'd be starting from P10 and P13. That's good for them. And of course, great for Kvyat, who can start inside the top 10 on whatever tyres he wants to, which is likely to be the medium tyre, maybe the hard tyre, but I'd say likely to be the medium compound tyre. So Toro Rosso, as we've seen this season, very good when it comes to race pace, and they tend to have a decent or good enough car for really all tracks. So if that can continue today, I think Kvyat and maybe even Albon could be right there for points with, you know, Romain Grosjean in the Haas. Maybe one of the Racing Points, if one of those Racing Points cars does come through the field and compete. Yeah, Toro Rosso are kind of in the midfield. They're kind of dark horses for the for a good result in the midfield, because they're the highest midfield team, really, or the quickest midfield team that can start the race on whatever tyres they want to. Of course, Renault and McLaren are ahead of them, but they have to start on the unfavourable soft compound tyre. So yeah, Toro Rosso, dark horses for this race, and definitely keep an eye out for Toro Rosso. They could do something very, maybe not special, but very good at times in this Grand Prix. And last in the midfield is Racing Point, who are basically back there with Alfa as having one of the worst cars in the midfield. Qualifying was very disappointing, but as we have seen with Racing Point at this track before, they can overtake. They do tend to have good races here, and they do have two drivers who do tend to be very good when it comes to race pace. So don't absolutely count out Racing Point. It will be tough for them to get a point, but don't count them out, because again, they have two excellent drivers when it comes to race pace. Lance Stroll will be very keen to get a point at his home Grand Prix, and Sergio Perez has scored points, I think, plenty of times at this Grand Prix. And I think in 2012, when Perez amazingly finished on the podium for Sauber, I think he started that Grand Prix from 15th on the grid. Not saying that's going to happen again, but I'm just illustrating that he can make plenty of positions up from P15 to get into the points. So don't completely count Racing Point out, but it will still be tough for them to get into the points, considering how their car just isn't that great at the moment, kind of like Alfa Romeo. And then, of course, at the back is Williams, who will be hoping for plenty of retirements so they can get a point. It could happen, but of course, we will have to see. But guys, with half an hour to go until the start of the 2019 Canadian Grand Prix, let me know right now in the live chat. For the midfield, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think Renault with Ricciardo and Hulkenberg can keep up the type of performance they did in qualifying for McLaren? Do you think they'll finish in the points of both cars? For Alfa, can they somehow nick a point? For Haas, sorry. Can they nick a point possibly? Do you think Toro Rosso, like me, are dark horses? And could Racing Point nick, no pun intended, a point? Let me know in the live chat and I'll read out your comments in just a moment. But yeah, I'll take a quick drinks break again and then we'll get to reading plenty of your comments. Right, so let's see what you guys have to say. By the way, great to see so many of you here. 316 of you here. Great to see. Right, let's see what you guys have to say. Francisco, who is a Kimi Raikkonen fan, says, like I said, let me try and find that comment. He says, like I said, I think Kimi will be good today because of brake management and tyre degradation. Yeah, he does tend to be good at managing his car and keeping everything under control and keeping everything cool, of course, which does relate to his nickname, the Iceman. So, if the Alfa can have better race pace, then Kimi could come up the field, but that car just isn't doing it for him right now. It really isn't. It's been a very poor last couple races for Alfa Romeo. Billy Lake says Alfa will move up to points as Canada always has retirements. Well, hopefully for their sake it does have retirements today because, and I've said this before, I said this earlier in the weekend and I also said this last weekend in our podcast previewing the Canadian Grand Prix, that if Alfa don't score points in this race, I think Alfa will start to slip back and fall away dramatically from that battle for P4 and P5 in the Constructors. So they have to somehow get a point today if they're going to keep up with other teams like Renault, Racing Point, Toro Rosso and Haas. McLaren are a bit far away from them right now, but teams like Toro Rosso, Racing Point, Haas, Renault, they've got to try and keep up with. It is vital that they do that. Right, let me find some more comments. Crystal Racing says, and it is true, the last real crazy Canadian Grand Prix was 2014. It absolutely was. Hopefully something similar can happen again. Right, let me find a couple more comments if I can. Diablo says Albon or Hulkenberg should replace Pierre Gasly. Well, after the race finishes, at the end of this watch-along, I'm actually going to get into the content coming up on my channel between, now and the next Grand Prix in France. And I have something that is to do with that topic. But I'll let you guys know later on. Bristol Racing, Montreal has become a bit more boring due to fuel-saving requirements of the hybrid era. True, it has. It absolutely has. Finley asks, does Stroll being in a team led to that car being poorly developed? Look at Williams and Racing Point, i.e. Stroll doesn't know how to develop a car. I think you do have a point. You definitely do have a point. Because, yeah, Williams, the car only got worse. And at Racing Point, so far this season, I wouldn't say the car got worse. Because if you look at Australia to Baku, they were definitely more so forward with where they were in Baku compared to Melbourne. But after Baku, they've really just gone massively backwards compared to where they should be. We knew Barcelona and Monaco would be bad for them, but I thought yesterday in qualifying in Canada, they would be getting a driver quite close to the top 10, maybe getting a car into the top 10 if there is some crazy eliminations or crashes or anything like that. But yeah, they were very, very poor. Very poor. Right, I'll read out one final comment and then I will move on to the next topic, which is not predictions, it is tyres. Because tyres, guys, are going to be very, very important today. Also considering that it's very hot at the track today. And I believe at one point during the race, it is going to hit 28 degrees Celsius at the track. So the track temperature is probably going to be in the 50s. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough day for tyres. Really is. Right, let me find a final comment. Electro Knights, let's be real. Do you think Williams will score at least 1 point this season? No, they won't. Absolutely no chance. If we get a Monaco 96 race, then maybe sometime this season, if that type of race does happen, they'll get a point. But no, I don't see it at all. Don't see it at all. But now, let's get into the tyres and the situation in terms of who has, new sets of tyres and who has used sets of tyres is not as interesting as it was in Monaco, but tyres will play a very important role today, as they normally do, because it's going to be very hot and people starting on this red soft C5 compound are going to struggle like mad in the first 10 to 15 laps. And those drivers that we know are starting on the soft compound tyre are Daniel Ricciardo, Pierre Gasly, Nico Hülkenberg, and Lando Norris, and also Carlos Sainz, I believe, as well. So those drivers, they're going to struggle, and they're going to pit probably 10 to 15 laps into this Grand Prix. Pirelli have come out and said that they think they could see pit stops as early as lap 5. I think if there's a safety car around then, probably, but I don't see pit stops around lap 5. I think lap 10 to 15 is when you'll see the first of the soft tyre runners coming into the pits. The quickest way to do this Grand Prix on tyres is to start on the yellow medium C4 and go to the white hard C3. Now, Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas, Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc, they're on medium tyres to start, so they will do that. Max Verstappen, though, you can see he doesn't have a new set of medium tyres, and that's why I think he will absolutely start on the white hard C3 tyre and then go to a soft C5 tyre at the end of the Grand Prix to try and possibly get into the top 5. Maybe into the top 4, maybe the podium if there is enough chaos, but I think Max Verstappen for sure is going to start on the hard compound tyre. Then as we scroll down, you've got Magnussen, who's only got one new set of mediums and hards. I think Magnussen will start on the hard and then go to the medium most likely. Grosjean has one new set of each tyre, so he does have plenty of tyres to play with. Sainz and Norris, of course, starting on the soft tyre. And then Perez, Stroll, Raikkonen and Giovinazzi have plenty of tyres to play with because they got knocked out in Q1. And then the two Toro Rossos have two new sets of mediums and then one new set of soft and hard tyres. So Toro Rosso, I think, are likely to start on the medium. And then if tyre wear is bad enough and they have to go to a 2-stop, then they'll go onto the medium again, Toro Rosso, and then go onto the soft. So that's what I think they'll do. And then Williams, well, they're likely, I think, to start on the hardest compound, but let's be honest, who cares? Because they can start on any type of compound. They're not going to finish in the points. There's absolutely no chance of that happening. So that's the situation with the tyres. Again, it's going to be very, very important. Tyre wear will be critical for the soft tyre runners in the first stint. But after they pit, the tyre situation will calm down, but it will still be tough for them to keep the tyres, in the window, but also to keep them from absolutely wearing and tearing to shreds. And also, just to let you guys know, the area of the car you need to watch out for in terms of tyre wear is the rear tyres, because rear tyres really do take a pounding at the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. So yep, that is the situation with tyres. But now, let's get into my predictions for the 2019 Canadian Grand Prix and who I think will win this race, finish in second and finish in third. And also, guys, whilst I do this, or right after I finish this, and after I bring Nib in to get his thoughts, make sure to put your predictions for the race in the chat. And for the next, well, by the time we finish ours, it'll be 15 minutes to go probably. For the last 15 minutes, make sure to put your predictions in the chat, and I'll read out as many as I can before the formation lap gets underway. But let's now get on to them. And for me, winning the 2019 Canadian Grand Prix is going to be Lewis Hamilton, but it's not going to be an easy Grand Prix for Lewis Hamilton because the Ferrari car is very, very quick, and Sebastian Vettel is looking like he is possibly back to his very best this weekend. Now, this is how I think Hamilton will win. So Vettel will get away first, Hamilton will get away in P2 at the start, and then we will have a great duel for the win. And I think Hamilton will pass Vettel, not in the pit lane, but on track. I think Lewis Hamilton will pass Vettel on track around probably lap 47, 48. I think that's when Hamilton will make his move, and then Hamilton will just about go on to win. By the way, just to let you guys know, yes, I'm going for Hamilton to win, but I think the gap between Hamilton and Vettel, who I am going for second, and I'll get on to why in a moment, the gap between those two at the end of the race will still only be, I think, about 2 to 3 seconds. It's not going to be 20 seconds or anything like that. It's going to be very, very close. And yet, in P2 is going to be, for me, Sebastian Vettel. Again, I think he'll get away in the lead, but eventually, somehow, some way, Lewis Hamilton will find a way past. It'll be very interesting to see if he does get past, how he does so. But yeah, I think Ferrari, they do have a quick car, but I don't think for 70 laps around this track against Lewis Hamilton, who is so great here, and against that, Mercedes team, who are so great, I don't think Ferrari can pull it off. I hope they can really, go head to head and really challenge Mercedes today. But I think in the end, Sebastian Vettel and Ferrari will just about miss out on victory. But if he does win, it'll be his third win in Canada. And Ferrari, by the way, going for their second straight win in Montreal, because of course, Sebastian Vettel converted pole to victory last year in Canada. But yeah, I think Ferrari will just miss out, but they won't be far away, probably 2 to 3 seconds off the race winner Lewis Hamilton at the end of the Grand Prix. And then in P3, I think will be Charles Leclerc. I think Leclerc will get away in P3, but he will kind of maintain a watching brief of the battle ahead. I just don't think he'll have consistently over 70 laps enough speed to compete with Vettel and Hamilton. But if anything does go wrong ahead, I think Leclerc will be in a great position to capitalise and possibly go on to take his first ever race victory in Formula 1. And by the way, if Ferrari do win today, it'll be their first win of 2019. Yep, there you go. Those are my predictions for this race. And now I'll bring in Nib to get his thoughts on what he thinks will happen. Nib, great to have you on. How you doing, mate? And are you pumped for this race?
Hello, mate. It's very good to be on the stream as per usual, and I am absolutely pumped for this Grand Prix. Qualifying has got me in such a great mood. That sort of 5 a.m. time on a Sunday morning has been very kind to me the past week, so I was very happy once again. So I think we're in for once again a very good Canadian Grand Prix, but I will now get into my predictions. And as you've been going through your predictions, I've just come up with my predictions. So I think, honestly, winning the race is going to be Sebastian Vettel. I think Mercedes, if they had Bottas closer up to the front, could apply some more pressure. on Ferrari in the pit stop window, which I think is where Hamilton is more likely to overtake Vettel. But because Bottas isn't there and they can't really use the strategy against Ferrari as well, I think that Vettel will hold on to first place and win the Canadian Grand Prix. And then in second place, I think it will be Lewis Hamilton. I just think he won't have quite enough to win, especially in a straight line. I'm not sure if you guys had seen the side-by-side comparison on the back straight in qualifying. Boy, oh boy, was that Ferrari a rocket ship, and I don't see the Mercedes challenging the Ferrari in a straight line today. But then in third place, I'm going to go for Charles Leclerc. I don't think he'll be challenged really by Bottas or anyone behind him. But who knows if good old the Honey Badger could get up into third place on the first lap. That would be fantastic. Of course, I'm being very hopeful and actually don't think Ricciardo would be on the podium. But let's just say I'm very delighted after qualifying.
Yeah, I knew you were, and I could see you in the live chat getting very, very excited. But yeah, that's what me and Nib think will happen. But now, guys, in the live chat for the next 13 and a half minutes, let us know, what do you think will happen? Who do you think is going to win, finish in second, and finish in third? And then I'll read out your comments in the chat in just a moment. And right, let me just see where the predictions start, and then I'll get reading every single one. Plenty of comments, by the way. Great to see over 500 of you watching live, and as you can see in the top left, we aren't far away from lights out in Montreal. Right, let me find the first one and then we'll get reading. Right, there you go. So JB says Hamilton to win from Sebastian Vettel in second and Charles Leclerc in third. Super Vlogger Michael says Vettel to win from Leclerc second, Hamilton third. Seirugara, Hamilton to win from Leclerc second and Vettel in third. And then Jay Crail says Lewis to win from Vettel second, Bottas third. Games Donovan says Vettel, Hamilton, Bottas. Cyber Trader says Hamilton to win from Leclerc. Sting Like a Bee says Hamilton to win from Vettel second, Bottas third, Gasly fourth, and Daniel Ricciardo in fifth. Well, let me find some more. Crystal Racing says Vettel to win from Ricciardo second and Hulkenberg third. That would be an incredibly emotional moment if Ricciardo and Hulkenberg got a podium. It really, really would. Right, let me find some more. Simon Troop, Hamilton to win from Vettel second, Ricciardo third, Bottas fourth, Leclerc fifth, Hulkenberg sixth, Max seventh, Gasly eighth, Perez ninth, and Norris in P10. Jason Alves says Leclerc, Hamilton, Verstappen, Vettel is his top four. Then we have Mickey Black says Max will win. Let me try and find some more. Fred Flintstone 4. Great username there. Says Vettel to win from Hamilton second, Bottas third. Paul says Charles Leclerc will be on the podium. Let me find some more that I've missed or not read out. Oh, just scrolled down a bit too quick. Aero D says Hamilton to win from Vettel second, Bottas third. Let me see if I can find any more. Gina says Hamilton to win, Bottas second, Vettel third, Leclerc fourth, and Max Verstappen in P5. Quickly move on to a different picture. Here's the Ferrari of Sebastian Vettel. Right, let me find some more predictions here. Louis says Leclerc to win from Bottas second, Ricciardo third. John Huebner says Hamilton will retire and Ferrari will get a 1-2. Peter King says Vettel will purposely crash into Hamilton. Both will be out the race. Leclerc, Bottas, Gasly is his podium. Right, let me find any more. By the way, hello to Eugene Kelly. I'm great, and hopefully you are as ready for the race as I am. I've been pumped for this race for so long. Honestly, after I came off the qualifying watch along, guys, no word of a lie, I wanted the race to start immediately. That's how pumped up I was. I just wanted it to start because the grid, it just looks so it's poised to be such a great race with that grid. I'm not going to say it's absolutely going to be a great race because you never know, it could be boring. Look at last year, but with that grid, we really should have plenty of overtakes and we really should be in for a great race. Joe Hill says Hamilton to win from Vettel second and Max Verstappen in third. Right, let me find some more comments. Mr. Random Guy, at least one overtake will happen. Yep, you can guarantee that. You can guarantee that. Right, let me find or see if there is any more predictions. Yep, there is. Astro Stevo says Leclerc, Bottas, Danny Rick. Warren M says Hamilton to win from Max in second, Vettel third, Charles Leclerc fourth, and Daniel Ricciardo in fifth. Tonka Toy Truck says they will finish as they qualified. I assume he means for the top three, or maybe top five, probably the top three. He says they will finish as they qualified, barring any mistakes. Yeah, could happen. D Wade, Hamilton to win from Leclerc second, and Vettel in third. Just had a go Charles Leclerc there. And let me see if we can find any more. Scott 1888 says Vettel to win from Hamilton second, Leclerc third, Bottas fourth. Right, let me move on to a different picture, final picture before I go to Twitter. By the way, I just want to say a couple things. Is one, if you are new to watch alongs for the race, this is how we do it. So what I'll have is a running order with obviously the live order of positions at the Grand Prix. And during the race, I will put as many pictures on the screen as I can. And again, I can't show race footage for obvious reasons, for obvious copyright reasons, because the channel will be took down immediately. So I'm not going to do that. So yeah, me and Nib are going to provide basically a radio commentary of what's going on, and we will keep you up to date lap by lap. By the way, there will not be again a lap counter, but we will make sure to read out what lap it is. So just make sure to listen to what we're saying and you'll know what lap it is. So don't worry, you will be able to keep up with us. And yeah, I'll make sure to put in the top left for anyone just joining that the race has started once the race does start. Yeah, we've got another 6.5 minutes to go until the Grand Prix, until the formation lap really. But don't worry, I will keep you guys up to date precisely, and Nib will as well. We'll keep you up to date precisely lap by lap, and we'll keep you up to date with what is going on track, so you won't miss a thing with us here on Chaz HDF1. And again, just to say, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, as we do watch-alongs for every F1 race weekend, and we will do the same for Practice 2, qualifying, and the race in 2 weeks' time for the 2019 French Grand Prix at Paul Ricard in France. So don't forget to subscribe for that. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there. Or go to my homepage, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell. And also, if you like this type of content, don't forget to hit the like button as well. But I want to come to you, Nib, about Daniel Ricciardo. He's most likely going to be passed by Pierre Gasly, Valtteri Bottas, and somehow, some way, Max Verstappen. For the opening of the race, do you think he can keep ahead of, say, certain drivers like Gasly? And in the end, where do you think Daniel Ricciardo is actually going to finish?
I ultimately have no idea where Daniel Ricciardo will finish, because I think there will be some incidents during this Grand Prix and perhaps at the first corner, just because of the nature of how tight and twisty the first part of the track is on the first lap. We're seeing crashes in the first corner before. So with Ricardo, I think he will be passed certainly by Bottas. Who knows with Pierre Gasly, because we've seen that he struggled to overtake in a straight line before, and at this track, you don't have the most amount of space in the world. It is quite a narrow track, and the Red Bull isn't the quickest in the straight line. And yesterday, the Renault was quicker in a straight line than the Red Bull. But I think that Max Verstappen will probably ultimately get past him. But I'm not sure about Pierre Gasly. I think the I think the worst that Ricardo can finish is seventh, and I think probably the best is going to be fifth. So that's where I'm looking for with Ricardo. But I must say, I'm really looking forward to Max Verstappen charging through the field today. I think that is going to be absolutely fantastic to see, and he always puts on a good show when he does so. And last year's race was was awful. It was really awful after we had a great qualifying session, but I think because we have quite a few drivers out of position on the grid, I think that this race is going to be significantly better than last year's Grand Prix.
Yeah, I think it will. I think it will, because you have to remember, even though qualifying was great last year, the top teams had their cars not in the exact position they wanted them to be, but they weren't out of position and behind midfield cars. So I think from that standpoint, we're basically guaranteed to have a more exciting race than we did 1 year ago. But we are about 3.5 minutes away from the formation lap here in Montreal, as now the F1 intro has finished and now they're looking at the track on FOM. Make sure, by the way, to sync up with us right now. And just to let you guys know, of the track conditions, let me quickly read them out. So the current air temperature is 28.6 degrees Celsius and the track is at 51.4. So, as I said, tyres will struggle today, especially rear tyres. And this is the thing. If drivers get involved in plenty of overtaking and battles on track, that's going to force them to have to pit for a second time, because they'll be wearing their tyres out a lot more than they'd want to if they were in complete clean air, not having to battle anyone on circuit. As we've just dipped over 1,000 viewers, so great to have that. Hopefully you're all ready for this Canadian Grand Prix. I'm going to quickly post a picture of some people singing the Canadian national anthem if I can. But what I'll do in just a moment is I will get rid of the timer and get the text in the top left ready for you guys, as I'm now currently running through the grid. By the way, I'll get the running order up in just a moment, as yeah, we're just moments away from the formation lap. And let me now post this picture on screen, so then we can get ready. As Stroll and Russell 17th and 18th, and Kubica and Kevin Magnussen, by the way, if you were wondering, is starting from the pit lane in the Haas. Here is that picture I was talking about. But I think now I will get the running order ready. There you go, that is the grid. And now I will get the text ready. But yet we are just about a minute away from the formation lap, so I'll just quickly put formation lap on the screen for you guys so you know exactly what period we are in. The formation lap has not started, but it is about to. So yeah, that's happening in just a moment. There is Daniel Ricciardo. Can Daniel Ricciardo win, or not win, but can he compete with the drivers he is racing against? We'll have to see. Realistically, I don't think he can, but you never know in Formula 1. By the way, great to see we have already 1,200 people watching live. Great to see so many of you here, and hopefully, again, you are ready to enjoy the race with us. Yeah, the formation lap is about to start in just a moment. I'll replace the text saying formation lap has started as soon as it does. As they now take the tyre blankets off. And yeah, Max Verstappen, by the way, is on the hard compound tyre. Kvyat is on medium, so is Albon, Grosjean, Perez, Raikkonen, Stroll, and Magnussen and Giovinazzi on hards, and the two Williamses are on the mediums. So yeah, formation lap is pretty much now underway in Montreal. So we're only now about 2 minutes away as Hamilton there struggling to get away, and Ricciardo almost walloped into the back of him, which would have been massively embarrassing there. But
Hamilton didn't exactly get away, that's for sure.
Yeah, he did not really get away at all. I'll quickly post a different picture for you guys. But yeah, that current order running on the bottom of your screen, that is the order of the grid going into the first lap. But let me put this on screen. That's Hamilton when he was coming out on track earlier, as the crowd is absolutely as pumped up as we are for the start of this Grand Prix. Can Ferrari take their first win of 2019? We'll see very, very soon. In fact, we'll see in about a moment if Ferrari can get off the grid and can get into the lead. And it will be interesting to see also, can Charles Leclerc challenge Lewis Hamilton down to turn 1? Because if Ferrari can get a 1-2 into the first corner, or first two corners, that's ideal for Ferrari, because then they can manage the race up front, and then Sebastian can, well, if he is quick enough, pull away from Charles Leclerc, and then that would be ideal for Ferrari to win this race. As now the drivers are now coming up to the end of the back straight and are about to come onto the grid for the 2019 Canadian Grand Prix. Here comes Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc and Daniel Ricciardo. We're about to start, guys. Let me quickly get the text ready. I hope Hamilton's been on the radio twice during the formation lap. I hope he hasn't got an issue. We'll see.
Well, of course, with that hydraulic leak, there might be a few little issues. I didn't quite catch what he did say, but he might have a bit of a poor start here. Might not Daniel Ricciardo, Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, we'll see, because he did have a very, very bad getaway on the formation lap. But the race, guys, is literally about to start as the final cars line up on the grid for the 2019 Canadian Grand Prix. And here we go. When will the lights come on? Here they come on. It's 2 lights, it's 3 lights, it's 4, it's 5. The Canadian Grand Prix is go. And Sebastian Vettel gets a great start. So does Charles Leclerc, but does not get Hamilton into turn 1. Hamilton holds it around the outside. Ricciardo is still in P4 and maintains P4. Valtteri Bottas, I think, is being passed by Hülkenberg around the outside. Yes, he has. Bottas gets passed by Hülkenberg, and I think a McLaren might be up there as well. He's right behind Bottas, possibly going for a move, but no, he doesn't. But Max Verstappen, as I think...
We've got Toro Rosso with no front wing.
Toro Rosso with no front wing. Don't know who that is.
Albon.
It's Alexander Albon. We don't know how that happened. We'll find out in a moment. But yet the first lap is underway, and Vettel already pulling away, as he usually does at the front of a Grand Prix. He's so great at leading a field of drivers away. Max Verstappen, will he go for a move? No, he won't. But the McLaren ahead of him, locked up, of Lando Norris, is Daniel Ricciardo. Has had a very good first lap, you can see. Not that far behind Charles Leclerc. Yellow flag still in Sector 1, as they now come up to complete Lap 1 and Verstappen trying to go for a move on Norris and doesn't get it done, but will get a great run if he can. Out of the final corner. No, he hasn't. He hasn't got a good enough run. So Verstappen stays behind. But yeah, I'm going to do the order now. So Hülkenberg has got past Bottas. So Bottas down to P7. They got Norris, Verstappen, Kvyat, Sainz, Sergio Perez, P12. What a start for Perez. As Albon is replacing his front wing. Giovinazzi is down to 13th. Lance Stroll. I believe it was Grosjean and Albon that might have had contact because Grosjean is far down the field. Oh no, it's an Alfa Romeo of Giovinazzi, I believe. We'll have to see a replay of that. And yeah,
it looks like it was contact with the Racing Point, actually, that just completely knocked off his front wing. It was very hard to tell from that onboard camera angle. It looked like someone's locked up there at the hairpin as we're now looking at Max Verstappen behind Lando Norris. And Verstappen is struggling ever so slightly this early stage in the race, but that is because he is, of course, on the hard compound of tyres. As Pierre Gasly closing up to Daniel Ricciardo, going through the final chicane now.
He is, as Vettel continues to lead the field away. And the current running order, guys, is now just about running along the bottom of your screen. By the way, Sebastian Vettel, new fastest lap, as we are on now lap 3. As Vettel does a 17.1. Just need to update Kimi Raikkonen, getting past Robert Kubica for P16. Williams had a very good start as well. There you go. That is the current order. And Vettel, 1.8 seconds ahead. We've seen this so many times. The guy is so good at leading a pack of drivers away. He's already built that DRS gap. And Ricciardo is kind of under threat from Gasly, but not massively. Gasly's not climbing all over the back of him at the moment. And nor is really Max Verstappen all over the back of Lando Norris at the moment. He's definitely faster, but he's not diving all around him to try and get past. As now, so I'm just trying to see. So Gasly, yep, still behind Daniel Ricciardo. Verstappen still behind Norris as we're now on lap 4. Carlos Sainz has just passed Danny Kvyat, I believe. Oh no, Carlos Sainz is in the pits for some reason. He's getting those soft tyres out of the way. That's what he's doing. So Carlos Sainz now in the pits and puts on a set of hard compound tyres. Here's a quick picture of the start for you guys. As we're now seeing a race start replay, I'll let you, Nib, take us through it.
And as we can see, Charles Leclerc actually getting a very solid start there. Could have went down the inside of Hamilton, but Hamilton defended very nicely around the outside. And we see the Haas going off, avoiding some contact there. But we also see Hülkenberg going around the outside of Bottas. And there you go. It looked like a bit of a Constantina effect there. I'm not entirely sure which car Albon actually lost his front wing from. I think we might see a bit of a better view from Romain Grosjean's onboard, who had an awful start. And it was the Alfa Romeo of as Grosjean's had to push out some front wing out of just the mirror there of his car. And that was Lando Norris locking up, and Verstappen has got past. He got past Norris, but Norris, this is just a replay, sorry. Norris got back past him on the straight after he locked up and made the mistake. So I did actually miss that, but now Max is going to be trying to do everything he possibly can to get past Lando Norris, and with Norris being on those soft compound tyres, I believe he is. Yes, he is. I think it will be only a matter of time before Max gets past, but certainly a very good start to this race. And the reason for Albon losing his front wing was because of contact with the Alfa Romeo.
Yes, it was the Alfa Romeo of Antonio Giovinazzi, who is still going, by the way, in P12. So Giovinazzi has lived to fight another day. as Norris goes slightly wide again. I think that's just Norris's kind of line into the corner. Yep, there you go, as Verstappen opens the DRS but cannot make a move. Hasn't got enough speed down the straight. He looked there on Norris but couldn't make a move. By the way, Daniel Ricciardo still comfortably, you have to say, ahead of Gasly, and Hülkenberg is now closing up to Gasly. So Renault looking good. Verstappen, he's close, but just not close enough really right now to make a move. As Sebastian Vettel does another fastest lap of 1:16.5 as he leads by 2 seconds on lap 6 out of 70. Verstappen on the hard compound tyres. These tyres will come in very nicely later on in the Grand Prix, but right now it's not doing enough to get him ahead of Norris in the McLaren. Is it a surprise to you, Nib, that Verstappen is still not past Norris?
Not particularly, because he's on 2 compound harder tyres than Norris, but I think you see how easily he's able to follow Norris through these corners. I think after the hairpin, which they're just going through now, Max so much later on the brakes than Norris, but I think now coming down this main straight that Max will absolutely fly past Lando Norris as he now opens up the DRS, as we've got a nice overhead shot of there. Which way is Max going to go? He's in the slipstream of Norris. Norris defends inside. Max is going to have to go the long way around, and he's got that move comfortably done. And Max Verstappen is now up into 8th place as we have just moved on to lap 7 of this Grand Prix. And Daniel Ricciardo has just moved out of the DRS zone of Pierre Gasly. So Daniel Ricciardo doing a very good job here so far in this race. And also is Nico Hülkenberg to still be ahead of Valtteri Bottas for P6.
Absolutely. Hülkenberg, as Kimi Räikkönen, I think, has just pitted, possibly, or has made a mistake. He's just pitted because he's just dropped 3 positions. But yeah, great move, by the way, by Max Verstappen to go clean around the outside of Norris. Norris defended well, but the Red Bull, of course, has extra grip to just cleanly pull around the outside. But yeah, it is surprising that Bottas is not past Hülkenberg at the moment. We'll see if he does get past. He really should get past in the next couple laps. He's definitely faster. Oh, that's the wrong picture. I didn't want that on the screen. Trying to get a picture up of Sebastian Vettel and his lead over Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. As
not that image.
Yeah, definitely not that one. I think I've got it ready now. But yeah, Bottas really struggling.
Gasly's just pitted.
Yeah, Pierre Gasly's in the pits, but Bottas is really struggling to get anywhere near the rear wing of Nico Hülkenberg to possibly make a move as Gasly comes out on the hard compound tyres. Here is that picture I was trying to get. And hold on a minute. Let me just readjust it. And he comes out, Gasly, in 13th position.
He's got a nice little bit of clean air, does Pierre Gasly there, just in between a gap between Grosjean and Giovinazzi. So a good time by Red Bull to pit him, as Lewis Hamilton's on the team radio, can't quite hear, but he did set a purple first sector on this lap. And I think that Pierre Gasly pitting is going to start a chain reaction now. And I think we'll see certainly Daniel Ricciardo probably come into the pits at the end of this lap.
Yeah, he probably should. Hülkenberg might really miss out in terms of these pit stops in just a moment. Does Ricciardo come into the pits?
Yes, he does.
Yes, he does. So Ricciardo is in. So Hülkenberg will now go up to P4, and then Valtteri Bottas up to P5. By the way, Max Verstappen, look, all over the back of Bottas, and Bottas not within DRS of Hülkenberg. So Ricciardo butts on the hard tyres. It wasn't the best pit stop. Can he get out ahead of Gasly?
That's Lando Norris. He's hit the wall of champions.
Yeah, Norris in the wall, and is that going to hurt Ricciardo? I don't think it will. I think Ricciardo will get Gasly, or will come out ahead of Gasly on the pit lane exit. And yet, that is definitely a broken McLaren, and the rear brake there is on fire. Let me quickly do the order. Yellow flag in sector 1. That might, I don't think it will be a safety car. Might be a virtual safety car because they'll have to clear that.
Which
pretty
could
soon.
hurt Pierre Gasly and Daniel Ricciardo massively because, of course, if there's a virtual safety car, it basically only costs you half of the time that it would normally cost you for a pit stop. So that could be absolute disaster for Pierre Gasly and Daniel Ricciardo.
It definitely could. So I'm just quickly doing the order. So Perez and Stroll, 8th and 9th. Racing Point looking good. Giovinazzi in 10th. He's looking good. You got Ricciardo ahead of Gasly by about half a second. As we're now, by the way, guys, on... Is lap 10 out of 70. So another 60 laps to go. Yeah, Gasly is P12. And then P13 is Romain Grosjean. P14 is... Kevin, and is that damage on the Red Bull? On the end of the Red Bull nose? That looks like damage to me.
No, that's not damage.
Oh, is that the winglet? That's the winglet.
That's winglets.
Right, okay. It does suspiciously look like front wing damage, but Verstappen now all over the back of Bottas as George Rosso has just come in. But Kimi Raikkonen back up to 16th. And then you've got Russell in 17th, Kubica 18th, Albon is 19th, and Lando Norris is now the only retirement so far of the Canadian Grand Prix. We haven't seen a replay of what it exactly looked like, but I'm sure we will.
I must say, I did notice that Norris was very, very close to the Wall of Champions a couple of laps ago. I'm sure some of you maybe heard me go, oh, is Verstappen closing up massively behind Valtteri Bottas, who really seems to be struggling on the medium compound of tyre. He just did an 18.2, and his teammate on the same compound of tyres just did a 16.6. So Valtteri Bottas at this stage in the race is very, very slow. And it doesn't look like we're going to have any sort of virtual safety car because Lando Norris has parked his car in a reasonable spot out towards the exit of the pit lane. And here we go, a replay of Norris. He locked up. How on earth has that happened?
He must have hit the wall somewhere and it's come loose somewhere else. That must have been what's happened there. Surely he's touched a wall somewhere and that's what's caused that to happen.
I've just heard Martin Brundle say that it's a brake issue that has melted the rear suspension.
That is unbelievable. I've never heard of that possibly even happening. That is unbelievable. But wow. Yeah, didn't touch the wall. Is brakes, and we know brakes are critical here because they can get super, super hot. And it started way before. So, yeah, brakes at this track is very, very critical. And we've seen in the past.
The suspension was broken there. Now we've got Daniel Ricciardo in the DRS of Sergio Perez going to go... No, he's gone into the pit lane as Gasly's gotten past Giovinazzi as well. I got a bit caught out. I'm like, oh, where's Perez going there?
Yep, Ricciardo he was going to get past, I think, anyway, but Stroll now up to 8th. Daniel Ricciardo is now up to 9th. Pierre Gasly's up to 10th for Red Bull, and then P11 is now Giovinazzi, P12. Romain Grosjean. Haas are not doing too bad at the moment. Carlos Sainz is 13th. Magnussen is 14th. And then you got Perez, who has come out in a comfortable P15. So there you go. And Albon is now past Robert Kubica as Ferrari already lapping the Williams. That's how quick the pace is up front as we're now on lap 13 out of 70. But very quick they're lapping the Williams, but there you...
Kubica has pitted as well.
Yep, Kubica has pitted. Here is Daniel Ricciardo now on the back of Lance Stroll and goes for the move down the inside. Yellow flag in sector 1. I don't know what it is for. Kvyat is pitted. But Ricciardo is past the Racing Point of Lance Stroll. I don't know what the yellow flag is for.
Probably because they're still clearing the car of Norris.
Yeah, that's most likely what it is. So Ricardo up to P7, Stroll P8, Gasly's now P9 because Kvyat's pitted, and then Giovinazzi is now P10. You got P11, Romain Grosjean, who continues to move up the field despite what happened at the first corner. Carlos Sainz is P12, and then Magnussen is in P13 ahead of ahead of Danny Kvyat in P14. Kvyat, by the way, doing well to stay ahead of Perez in the overcut zone there, but we are on lap 14 out of 70. Yep, and Sebastian Vettel leads this race by 2.5 seconds from Lewis Hamilton. Leclerc is about 4 seconds behind Hamilton, as Verstappen is still right there with Bottas. Hulkenberg, by the way, doing super in this race to be in P4 and to be over a second ahead of Bottas, and Bottas is not closing in.
He was half a second quicker than Bottas the previous lap.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible, you have to say. Absolutely incredible. Here is Lando Norris's weird retirement. You can see there. Yeah, Hulkenberg is really... I mean, if there's any retirements ahead, and Hulkenberg can really stay in this Grand Prix, and so can Ricciardo, and continue to show the speed they are, you never know. Renault could get a podium if there's any, retirements or chaos ahead. As Verstappen continues to remain about a second behind Bottas, as Pierre Gasly is now stuck behind Lance Stroll. Here's a replay of Danny Kvyat. Is it passing Magnussen at turn 1? Yes, it is. Great move by Daniel Kvyat. And Perez has just passed Magnussen as well. And you can see that on the screen. Passed him on the straight between turn 7 and turn 8. So Kvyat is up to 13.
Has not pitted either. So Magnussen is absolutely dead slow at the moment.
Yeah, he did start from the pit lane, but you're right, he is so slow. He's nowhere near the top 10 in terms of speed. So Magnussen now down to P15. As we're now on lap 15 out of 70. And I'm just trying to see what the next battle on track could be. Here's a replay of Perez. Round the outside, and Magnussen just has no grip on the hard compound tyre to defend. And there you go. So Perez passed Magnussen. But one thing that's really helping Ricciardo nib is that Gasly cannot get past Lance Stroll. And look at the gap that Ricciardo's developed to Gasly. He's now over 4 seconds. Ricciardo looking really good here, you have to say.
Both Renaults are looking really superb. I think something that we've all forgotten here is that Hulkenberg is on the soft compound of tyre. And he is the only driver on circuit who is on 14-lap-old compound of soft tyres, and he's faster than Valtteri Bottas at the moment. It's absolutely incredible job that Nico Hulkenberg is doing here, and Daniel Ricciardo is closing in on Max Verstappen, as you'd expect. He is on fresher tyres than Verstappen. So far, this has been an absolute fantastic race for Renault.
It has. This has been one of the best races Renault have had since they came back into Formula One in 2016. Arguably their best so far. They're really, really looking good, as Kimi Räikkönen has now passed Kevin Magnussen. So I'll update that. So yeah, Magnussen has no speed and really, at this moment, no chance of a points finish. But as we can see on screen, not on our screen, but on the TV, Pierre Gasly really struggling to get past Lance Stroll. And if that continues to happen, then Gasly will really struggle to beat Ricciardo today. Because Ricciardo and Hulkenberg have really good speed in their cars. The order now is absolutely correct. And again, Gasly struggling to really get close to the back of Stroll. And here is Nico Hulkenberg. Nico Hulkenberg in the pits to go on the hard compound tyre. Be interesting to see where Hulkenberg comes out. There's Ricciardo down the pit straight, and I think he's going to get Gasly here. Yes, he will.
Quite comfortably.
Comfortably. So Hulkenberg has jumped Gasly. So Renault are now in a net P4 and P5. That's incredible. Great pace by Hulkenberg on the soft compound tyre. As Bottas now goes up to P4 because of that pit stop. And then you got Max Verstappen P5. And then up to P6 is Daniel Ricciardo. Then P7 is Hulkenberg. Giovinazzi, who's currently in the points, P10 on the hard tyre, hitting the wall. As here we see, so oversteer and then, yep, kiss the wall. If that was a bit
Lucky
quicker,
boy.
yeah, he was very lucky. If he was a bit quicker in there, he would have tore his car to pieces. There you go. But Ricciardo now is P6 as Leclerc does the new fastest lap of the Grand Prix on lap 18. But Hulkenberg now P7 and has jumped Pierre Gasly. And now Hulkenberg, if Gasly remains behind Stroll, Hulkenberg will now start to pull away. As I'm going to quickly post a picture of Daniel Ricciardo overtaking the racing point of Lance Stroll, which is something Pierre Gasly right now is struggling to do. Here is that picture. But yeah, Renault looking very, very good right now for a great result here in Canada. As we're currently watching Sebastian Vettel trying to lap the Williams, I believe, of George Russell. And he does. Hamilton, by the way, is starting to gain some time back. He's only 2 seconds behind, which is a smaller gap than it was, I think, a couple laps ago. So Lewis Hamilton and is now only 1.8 behind Vettel as we now start lap 19.
Just on that lap alone, Hamilton took 6/10 out of Vettel. Vettel had a bit of a scruffy lap as he was trying to overtake the Williams there. So Hamilton, he set a purple first sector, personal best second, and a pretty good third sector. So Hamilton on that lap did close in on Vettel, but now, as Hamilton will have to pass the Williams as well, I'd expect that gap to move out just again.
Yeah, we'll see what happens when Hamilton, I think though he did just lap the Williams. Yeah, he has. So Hamilton's already got past. So Hamilton not losing any time there and is already, I think, about a tenth up, but locks up the inside front, and that will cost him, well, it's cost him half a second. That's quite a big error there from Hamilton. As still, Pierre Gasly is not past Lance Stroll. There is a new mover in the order, and that's Carlos Sainz now past Romain Grosjean. Carlos Sainz looking good. There's that replay of Hamilton locking up. By the way, Nib, just to let you know and everyone know, Carlos Sainz has pitted and is ahead of Kvyat and Perez, who were, I think, just about in the points. So Carlos Sainz looking good here for possible points for McLaren. Bottas has just lapped the Williams, I believe, of Robert Kubica. Is it? Yes, it is. And here comes Max Verstappen to do the same.
And you just mentioning that with quite a few other drivers as Giovinazzi, Stroll not pitting already, Sainz is certainly looking very strong here for some points.
Yeah, he absolutely is. Because Kvyat was, I believe, P10 when everyone had not pitted. So Carlos Sainz at the moment, I believe, actually with Norris retiring, Carlos Sainz is a net P9. So yeah, looking good for Carlos Sainz right now with that very early pit stop. But right now, things have definitely settled down, you'd have to say, compared to a few laps ago when Ricciardo and Gasly were making their way through the field. And we've only got, by the way, only 5 drivers, I think, on the medium compound. As, look at that, Max Verstappen locking up massively and going wide at the hairpin on the hard tyre. But interesting to note that I think 14 of the 19 on track are on hard compound tyres. So the hard tyre is the tyre to use, for sure, right now. As Bottas, and look how much he's pulled away from Max Verstappen. Verstappen, I think, is starting to struggle a bit. right now, yep, everything has really stabilized. Nib, is there any talking points you can really look at right now as to what we need to look out for later in this Grand Prix?
I think later on in this Grand Prix, when Max Verstappen, obviously him starting on the hard compound of tyres, perhaps when he pits later on in this race, I'd assume he'd go on the medium compound tyre. That he's going to be very quick in the latter stages of this race, and he will have to pass more than likely. Well, certainly at the moment, at least Nico Hulkenberg and Daniel Ricciardo, if he were to pit if he were to pit right at this moment, those are the cars he'd have to overtake. But I think one interesting point is that that Valtteri Bottas is pretty might just come out ahead of Nico Hulkenberg if he were to pit at the moment, as Charles Leclerc has just set another fastest lap of the Grand Prix, pretty much identical to what he did just before. But that gap to Bottas, that gap between Bottas and Hulkenberg is just on about 17 to 16 seconds, which is just about what you need for a pit stop here at Canada. So Bottas, he nearly has that gap to come out just behind Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah, if we can get the gap to Hulkenberg, then he should have enough speed in hand in this Grand Prix to try and get past Ricciardo for what will be P4 in the Grand Prix. Here's a different picture for you guys of Lewis Hamilton. Let me quickly adjust it. Yeah, everything has really stabilized right now. We're kind of waiting for pit stops right now. Verstappen continues really to drop back from Valtteri Bottas, and Max Verstappen not looking that great right now on pace. And as you said, Nib, I think Verstappen is going to have work to do later on. As, by the way, Kevin Magnussen is that slow that on lap 23 he has already been lapped. That is how slow Kevin Magnussen is. He's already 11 seconds off Kimi Raikkonen. I don't know what has happened to Magnussen, but
There must be something wrong with his car.
Yeah, there has to be. There's no way he's that slow. I mean, he could get lapped by midfield runners. He's that slow at the moment. He's already almost a pit stop behind Kimi Raikkonen in 15th. Kevin Magnussen, no speed. In the Haas is another picture of Hamilton clumping over, oh, let me get it again, clumping over the final chicane. As we're now currently watching Sebastian Vettel leading Hamilton. But Hamilton, as we said, I think a moment ago, or a few moments ago, is starting to gain on Sebastian Vettel. He is starting to gain.
Yeah, and he's certainly in that undercut territory is Lewis Hamilton. If he were to just pit or push, give a good old hammer time lap, and then he were to pit, he'd be right in the window there of Sebastian Vettel. So this pit stop phase really is going to decide the race. So Ferrari will have to be very, very aware of what Lewis Hamilton is doing. As it must be said, Charles Leclerc is certainly looking quite quick in this second half of the stint. As he just set a fastest final sector, which was very quick. He must have had some DRS from him lapping a car, but I think at the moment everyone is going pretty quickly, and Hamilton certainly is a danger to Vettel if they were to pit, which they should do in probably about 5 to 10 laps time.
Well, what they need to do, and I'm noticing this, is they need to build and make sure they have a gap to Bottas and Verstappen so they don't get held up in any traffic. So I think once that gap is fully achieved, then I think they'll start to come in. By the way, Pierre Gasly really struggling. He's now dropped 2 seconds behind Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll, by the way, having a great race. He's P8, hasn't pitted, and is only 2.5 seconds off Nico Hulkenberg. By the way, just to let you guys know, the drivers that have not pitted yet are Vettel, Hamilton, Leclerc, Bottas, Verstappen, Stroll, Giovinazzi, Grosjean, and Magnussen. Everyone else has pitted, and of course Lando Norris is our only retirement. Yeah, currently.
And it must be said that Vettel and Hamilton do have the gap to Valtteri Bottas, but Charles Leclerc does not at the moment. It must be said, Nico Hulkenberg so far on this stint on the hard tyre has been quite poor. He's dropped back quite a little bit from Daniel Ricciardo. He's about 5.5 seconds behind, and when he pitted, it was only about 3 or so seconds. So Hulkenberg struggling a little bit on these hard compound of tyres, but I think that he will start to get into the groove of things sooner rather than later.
Well, I've just seen in the live chat someone, I think John Hubner, said that apparently Hulkenberg might have a gearbox problem. He was, I think, just on the radio, and then it cut to Cyril Abitbol on the Renault mechanics. So that might be what it is. Might be a gearbox problem. Hopefully it fixes itself. But yeah, Vettel on lap 25, still 1.7 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton. And Vettel is still lapping on track. The Ferrari doesn't look like it's struggling at all. The tyres look absolutely fine. They look like they're in great condition, to be honest. And yeah, no tyre issues for the top three. Bottas, not so much. His tyres, I think, are struggling a bit more because he's been following other cars and also has had to look in his mirrors because of Max Verstappen at times. But right now, except for George Russell and Alexander Albon, there's no real battles on track right now. Albon will pass Russell pretty quickly, I think, because Albon is, well, he's in a much faster car. Maybe not faster driver, but is definitely in a much, much faster car. Again, there's only 5 drivers on the medium compound tyres. That's the top 4, Vettel, Hamilton, Leclerc, Bottas, and Romain Grosjean, currently P12. Is a replay. Sebastian Vettel at turn 6. And getting a bit of oversteer there on the curb. Of course, at that turn, you do need to really hug the inside curb to get the most speed out of your car through that corner. But you've got to make sure you don't, get greedy as Ferrari coming out into the pit lane very late, you have to say, for Sebastian Vettel. And here he comes, Sebastian Vettel in the pits. They're going to put on the hard compound tyre. And hopefully for Vettel, this pit stop goes well. Hard tyres go on. And yep, that's a very good pit stop. So now he has to hope, by the way, he comes out ahead of Bottas. Where is Bottas?
No, he'll come out comfortably ahead of Bottas.
Yeah, comfortably ahead. That's great news for Vettel. Now he's got to give it everything on this outlap. And Hamilton, I assume now is on an in-lap. And he will have to give it everything if he wants to win this Canadian Grand Prix. So Hamilton now up to first. Leclerc up to second. And Vettel third. You have to say, it really has been a 3-horse race at the front, as I thought it would be. There you go. And here
and
it
just
is.
Quickly updating you on Hulkenberg. He said he feels as if his gearbox is going to blow up. But that is all I'm aware of at the moment.
Okay, that's interesting that he feels that way. Maybe there's some kind of thing that happened in the car. Who knows? Is Hamilton pitting? No, he is not. By the way, Carlos Sainz has just passed Antonio Giovinazzi for some reason. I don't know if Antonio is pitted, but
He hasn't.
Carlos has found his way ahead for some reason. So let me quickly update that. And also Albon is now ahead of Russell. So Albon now up to 17th in the Toro Rosso. And Russell down in 18th. So right now Hamilton is giving it everything he has to try and overcut Sebastian Vettel. But can he do enough?
But that is not going to happen. Sebastian Vettel's just gone 0.6 fastest purple in the first sector over Lewis Hamilton. I think a little bit of an issue there is that Bottas had actually closed up into Hamilton's pit window, and that has kind of compromised Hamilton here from pitting and coming out ahead of Valtteri Bottas. So I think that's why they might not have pitted him.
We've just seen, by the way, on the screen, that is a pass for position. Kvyat passing Grosjean. As here comes the Mercedes mechanics ready to pit Lewis Hamilton, I believe. So Kvyat up to P12, Grosjean P13. Here comes Lewis Hamilton. Has he done enough? I don't think he has. I think he will come out P2.
We're going to see Sebastian Vettel come across the finish line and set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix by quite some margin.
And hard tyres go on, and that is a good enough pit stop. And here comes Bottas, hopefully for Mercedes. Bottas does not come out ahead, and Hamilton will pull ahead just about. And yes, Vettel doing a fastest lap of 1:15.3. Very quick. And I assume Charles Leclerc will be in at the end of this lap because Hamilton proved that the overcut does not work today in Canada. So Hamilton third at the moment, but is in a net P2 as Charles Leclerc has not pitted yet. And the only drivers not to pit are Leclerc, Stroll, trying to think who else. Giovinazzi as Vettel laps a car there. So Leclerc, Stroll, Giovinazzi, and Grosjean and Magnussen have not pitted yet. As Vettel continues on his way, I'll quickly post a picture of Vettel when he came into the pits, and Leclerc staying out on track as Hamilton, you have to say, look, massively dropped behind Vettel by staying out. I think, was it 2 laps more? He's now 5 seconds behind, as we're now, by the way, on lap 30 out of 70 at the Canadian Grand Prix. Quickly put this on screen for you guys. And there you go.
Might I just say that Ferrari have absolutely done a fantastic job with their strategy just there. They deceived Mercedes, bringing in Sebastian Vettel very, very late, not giving Mercedes any notice whatsoever. Pitted him before Hamilton so he could get that sort of undercut on Hamilton, and it worked an absolute treat. And now he is 5 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, absolutely great for once from the strategy team of Ferrari. Be interesting to see what they're going to do with Charles Leclerc here. Maybe they might put him on a different compound of tyre. Let's see. As Giovinazzi, and that's why he lost position to Carlos Sainz. He turned into turn 1, and the car, his rear end, said no thank you, and he spun, almost hit the wall, and got going again. That Alfa Romeo looks so unstable at the rear, as we've got a yellow flag for some reason in Sector 1, as Valtteri Bottas is now in the pit lane. And be interesting to see where he comes out. As they put the hard tyres on. That wasn't the best pit stop in the world, but wasn't too slow. So Ricciardo is through. And Hülkenberg will be behind. So Valtteri has got past Hülkenberg. And I think Max, if he pits now, would be ahead of Hülkenberg as well. So Max Verstappen is up to P4, hasn't pitted yet though. Daniel Ricciardo P5 and has pitted. What a drive from Ricciardo. And then Bottas comes back in P6. What can Valtteri Bottas do about Daniel Ricciardo? We'll see in a moment. Here's a replay of the pit stop, and yeah, wasn't that quick, but was quick enough to get him back out on track. And the track is now clear. Don't know what it was a yellow flag for. As here we have Romain Grosjean in 13th. Hasn't pitted yet on the medium tyre. Ahead only just of Sergio Perez on the hard compound tyre, who now opens up his DRS. Cam Perez, and he really does need to get a move on Perez because Kvyat, who was ahead of him anyway, but he is kind of competing with Kvyat. Perez does need to get a move on so he can get near Kvyat and possibly nick a point at the end of the Grand Prix. And Perez, does he have enough to get past at the end of this straight? I don't think he does. Gets into the slipstream. Will he go for the move down the inside? No, he only feigns for it. Only feigns for it. Grosjean getting a swapper on out of the final chicane. Will that give Perez an opportunity down into turn 1? Could do. Down the inside. All contact! Wheel to wheel, it was nothing too dramatic, but there was contact there. That's a great, hard racing move. Exactly what we want to see. Great move by Perez. He's now up to P13. But it will be probably a net P11, I think, once everyone makes their pit stop. Yeah, what do you think of that move, Nib?
Looks like Grosjean kind of turned in a little bit too much when Perez was there, and I'm sure that was Grosjean complaining on the radio as he usually does. Very nice move there by Sergio Perez, but now, of course, with Valtteri Bottas just having pitted onto fresh hard tyres, he is now going to be closing up to the back of Daniel Ricciardo as being on the hard compound tyres of 24 laps. So there's a 22 lap difference in the age of these tyres, and I'd expect Valtteri Bottas to be putting Daniel Ricciardo under lots and lots of pressure over the next coming laps.
Yeah, Bottas really should get ahead. But as we've seen with Hulkenberg, it's not an absolute guarantee, as, by the way, Danny Kvyat has just overtook Antonio Giovinazzi as Charles Leclerc is about to come into the pit lane, and here he comes. Leclerc will come out in a clear P3. And, well, given that he's pitted a lot later, maybe he'll have good enough and fresh enough tyres for the end to attack Hamilton for a Ferrari 1-2. Here he comes, hard tyres on, and goes and gets back out on track. That is Max Verstappen. Won't want to come out behind him. It'll be close. And Leclerc will lose out to Max Verstappen there. So that's a bit of a shame. But let me quickly do the order. So Vettel back into the lead. By the way, we're on lap 34 out of 70. So halfway through the Grand Prix. And Vettel is leading absolutely. No net lead. He's absolutely leading this Grand Prix. Max Verstappen is up to third. Hamilton is second, of course. Max Verstappen is third. Hasn't pitted yet. Leclerc's just pitted and is now P4. So there you go. And here is Bottas.
But a mistake there from Ferrari with the strategy. They left Leclerc out way too long. He was only about three or so seconds off Hamilton, but now he's absolutely massively well over 10 seconds off Lewis Hamilton. So a mistake there on the strategy by Ferrari for Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I think Bottas is now going to pass Ricciardo as Lewis Hamilton is a new fastest lap of 1:15.2. And here comes Bottas. Ricciardo. Oh, don't know what happened there. He lifted off there, Bottas. And Bottas now goes around the outside. Ricciardo defends the inside. And Bottas cannot get past. Here we go. Game on. Ricciardo ain't going to give him the space to go through. This is a genuine fight for position. That was very weird then, Nib. Bottas went to the inside and then he lifted like he was too scared to go to that inside line. Which was, very weird.
Didn't quite give him a car's width on that inside line, which of course he doesn't have to do if his car isn't there. So good defending by Daniel Ricciardo, but I think it's only a matter of time before Valtteri Bottas does get past Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah, he's going to get past somehow, some way, but nice to see Ricciardo defending, because if he can keep him behind for long enough and make Bottas kind of follow him long enough and damage his tyres, then Bottas might be stuck behind as Leclerc now gets past Verstappen down the back straight very comfortably. So Leclerc now up to P3. Max Verstappen is P4. Romain Grosjean is pitted. Here comes Bottas again on Ricciardo, but not close enough this time to go for a move, but might be going down to turn one. Nope, he's lost a lot of time in that chicane. Dirty air. Yeah, absolutely terrible dirty air coming out of the chicane. So Verstappen down to P4. Romain Grosjean has just pitted. So Kimi Räikkönen now P13. That's a bit better for him, but still nowhere near where he wants to be. Giovinazzi is now P14, and I think Antonio has pitted. And then Grosjean has pitted and come out P15. So you have to say, except for Ferrari, the Ferrari customer teams are really poor at the moment. 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th. That's really poor for them. But here we go. Ricciardo ahead of Bottas. Traffic ahead. I think Ricciardo might get DRS from that. And that's going to help Ricciardo, I think, down the back straight. Let's see if Ricciardo gets to open the DRS. And I think he does. And that is going to hurt Bottas. But Bottas will still get slipstream. And Bottas pulls to the outside. Can he make the move? No, he doesn't. Ricciardo holds him. And I tell you, Bottas has got to get past Ricciardo. This is
fantastic to see. An actual midfield team defending successfully from one of the big boys.
It really is, but you have to say for Bottas, I mean, we say for Pierre Gasly it's embarrassing, but for Bottas also it is, because he should be getting past Ricciardo. Renault, we know they're having a great day, but that Mercedes is comfortably faster, but Valtteri just cannot get the move done.
And one thing I just want to mention very, very quickly is that Lewis Hamilton has gained massively on Sebastian Vettel over the, really since he come out of the pit. Of course, I mentioned that the gap was about 5 seconds. The gap is now just over 2 seconds, and Hamilton is really pushing. He's been setting the timing screens alight with purple and green sector times. So Hamilton making sure he's right there behind Sebastian Vettel to make sure that he can put some pressure on it before the end of this race, as of course now Bottas is locked up there. I got so interested. Not Bottas's lock up there. I called him Bottas. But lock up there by Bottas, and that's certainly going to cost him an opportunity of overtaking Ricciardo this time around. And the more times that Ricciardo can successfully defend from Bottas, it's just going to make it harder for Valtteri Bottas to overtake him, as of course that is going to affect Valtteri Bottas's tyres. But one thing that we have to watch out for is the gap from Max Verstappen to these two at the moment is 14.5 seconds. And if that gap does get to about 16, 18 seconds, Max could very well indeed find himself ahead of these two. But at the moment, these two, they're actually not costing themselves any time whatsoever from them defending. So Ricciardo is doing a very good job here to maintain, at the moment, what would be P4.
Yeah, that is a net P4 for the moment. Daniel Ricciardo is still doing enough for that net P4. And I think if Bottas can't get past, we're struggling to see how Max Verstappen does, considering that the Honda power unit really has lacked power this weekend. As Bottas again at the hairpin closes up, but will now lose a slight bit of time. But now he's a lot closer and will open the DRS. Can Valtteri get past Daniel Ricciardo? Now Ricciardo will defend to the inside very late. Bottas around the outside and Valtteri gets the move done. Will he go straight on though? He almost did, but Ricciardo now all over the back of him. And I think Ricciardo won't be able to make a move because Bottas has DRS, but Ricciardo's going to try round the outside. No, Bottas has got it. So Bottas now ahead. Great racing between Bottas and Ricciardo.
The gap at the front is 1 second. I don't know what's happened previous lap, but the gap is 1 second as we're now seeing a replay of Bottas. Fantastic move there. Cut back across to make sure Ricciardo didn't have a lunge. Of course, compromised his line, as now we're going to see Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton. The gap is 1.3 seconds. So what on earth is going on here? But I must say that was a fantastic battle between Bottas and Ricciardo.
Absolutely. And by the way, if you're wondering, we're on lap 39 out of 70 as Hamilton has DRS. Here we go. Battle for the win is about to commence. It's 0.7 of a second as we begin lap 40 out of 70. This is going to be a great battle. And by the way, what did I say in the predictions? I said Hamilton would pass Vettel around lap 47, lap 48. And that could very well happen. But you never know. Vettel could hold him off. And of course, the Ferrari power unit in a straight line is mega down the back straight. So Lewis is really going to have to give it a lot to get past. And as we've seen with Bottas, the Mercedes power unit not doing that well this weekend. But he does have DRS on Vettel. And you have to say he's a lot faster. Do you know what I think this could be? I think the reason Hamilton has caught him is because Ferrari's,
Oh, Hamilton massively locks up there.
he
That's
does.
cost him a hell of a lot of time.
And I was just about to say, I think the reason Ferrari are losing pace is because they struggle, I think, to warm up the harder compounds of tyre. And of course, on the hardest compound, Hamilton will still get DRS despite the lockup because he was within a second of Vettel before he did that. And the detection zone is before that. So Hamilton will still get DRS and will still close in. And yet he's gone back to 0.8 of a second behind. So basically restarts from where he was. As we're now on lap 41 out of 70. 29 to go. Can Ferrari hang on and take their first win? We'll have to see what happens. By the way, I'm just trying to see if any of the rest of the order has changed around. The answer is no, but I say that Kevin Magnussen has now come into the pit lane. So I'll update where he is in just a moment. He's dropped behind Albon and I think will drop behind Russell. That's how bad he's been. And yes, he has. That is how bad Magnussen has been in this Grand Prix. But Hamilton just over a second. I think Hamilton made another mistake at the hairpin. But yeah, Hamilton just over a second behind. We'll see if he can pull off an overtake anywhere. As here's a replay of Hamilton again locking up at the hairpin. That was just now. So struggling with his brakes and struggling on his tyres. And then you can see their replay flinging into the chicane. Nib, do you think, like me, do you think that could be the case that Ferrari, they struggle to perform well on the harder compound tyres as Vettel does the fastest lap? Do you think that could be the case why Hamilton has closed in?
I'm not sure. I think that Sebastian Vettel might have just been trying to tyre save, whereas Hamilton was pushing more flat out. So I think it might have just been a case of Sebastian was conserving and saving his tyres, whereas Hamilton was pushing with everything he has to push. Because now we can see that both Ferraris are in the 15.2. So I think it might have just been a bit of tyre conservation from Sebastian Vettel.
Well, Ferrari and all the Ferrari fans and Sebastian Vettel fans will be hoping that is the case. But Hamilton is still there, 1.3 seconds behind as we are about to begin lap 43 of 70 as Vettel comes through the final chicane and starts lap 43 right about now. Yeah, lap 43 out of 70. And by the way, Lance Stroll, and I think Lance Stroll is the only one who hasn't pitted yet. Yeah, he is. Lance Stroll has not pitted yet and is P8 ahead of Pierre Gasly, who is having a shocking Grand Prix. And I think this race will put the final nail in the coffin for his Red Bull career. If he continues at the current speed and finishes behind both Renaults, that would be incredibly embarrassing. By the way, I think Max Verstappen, Nib, has built the gap to Ricciardo. I think it is enough for Max. Here he is in P4.
It's just on 17 seconds, which is just roughly about. But I just heard Max complaining that he has a very long brake pedal, which is certainly not what you want around this circuit. So I think it will be very, very close between Max, if he were to pit right this moment, with him and Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah, it would be close, but I think Max has a gap as Lewis Hamilton now 0.7 of a second behind Vettel. Now drops to a second. To be honest, I'd rather see that right now, Mr. Director, than Max Verstappen travelling really on his own in P4. And what is probably a net P5 for the moment. And there is the Red Bull mechanics. They don't look like they're ready to come in or to come out for Max Verstappen to come in. It'd be interesting, though, to see what tyres Verstappen goes on. I think he'll go onto the soft compound because Max does not have a new set of medium tyres. He does have a used set, but I think he'd rather go on the soft, as Valtteri Bottas now does the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. As Hamilton...
15 flat.
Yeah, 15 flat there by Bottas, as Hamilton is just over a second behind Vettel as they now come onto the back straight, and we're about to begin lap 45 out of 70 here. And Mercedes, if they're going to win, Lewis Hamilton's going to win. He's got to give it everything now, because Ferrari right now, at the moment, they are just about comfortable to win this Grand Prix. Only just, but if Hamilton wants to win, he's really got to go for it now, and so do the team in the last 25 laps. As we are now on lap 45 out of 70, and the order has, well, it still is the same as, by the way, Kevin Magnussen. For all you Haas fans out there, Kevin Magnussen pitted and came out on the medium compound after starting on the hard compound of tyres, as Vettel just about second ahead, and Bottas does another fastest lap of 14.9. So Valtteri really turning it on now. He's not really close enough to trouble Charles Leclerc, but nice to see him showing a bit better speed at the moment. As Vettel again just over a second ahead. He's doing just about enough to stay out of the DRS of Hamilton, as Hamilton is closing in. I think Hamilton might have had DRS that time, don't know, but look how much he's closing in there. Only 0.6 of a second behind, yet DRS he has. Hamilton closing in. Can he remain close enough? And look how much he closes here. The Mercedes, you have to say, in the second half of this race is looking a lot stronger than the Ferrari did in the first half of this Grand Prix. That is Toto Wolff.
I think Sebastian Vettel might have a slight issue, because he was just told on his team radio the numbers on the steering wheel are correct. Take actions. So we don't know, of course, what that issue is, but it looks like in the braking zones, he is losing quite a lot of time. Could it be a little bit of, say, fuel issue? Are they trying to have to save fuel, so he's having to lift the coast into the braking zone? Who knows? But Vettel does have some sort of issue that is bugging him in the second phase of the Grand Prix.
And finally, here comes the racing point of Lance Stroll into the pit lane. I'm going to quickly adjust this picture of Vettel and Hamilton on track. Very, very close. And Stroll will come out in... Where will he come out? P10. So Stroll's done it. He's getting into the points. Great by Lance Stroll. Great job. Yeah, his qualifying speed is shocking, but his race pace is, you have to say, really good. Carlos Sainz now to P9. And then Stroll is now P10. Great there for Lance Stroll. Racing point at the moment, just about nicking a point in that vital Constructors' Championship battle. And still Verstappen, I think, just about does have the gap to Ricciardo, but it's not absolutely sure. And look at Hamilton. He's a lot closer than he was a couple laps ago. Only 3/4 of a second behind. Vettel, I don't think will get DRS from ahead, because I don't think he was close enough. Hamilton, though, will get DRS and will close in on Vettel. There you go. There is a DRS. Kvyat has DRS on Stroll. And Stroll is on the medium compound tyre. I think he started on hard tyres. I'm not 100% sure. He started on hard
tyre, now on the medium.
Right, so I thought he started on the medium, but he, of course, started on the hard then. And these two, Vettel and Hamilton, will have to lap Kvyat and Stroll, who are battling for positions. This will be tough. Vettel's off the track! Vettel's off the track and he blocks Hamilton out! Vettel making a critical error, but he keeps the lead. Oh, that was very close to losing the lead. Very, very close. So, Vettel and now Hamilton, very, very close. I think Sebastian locked up the inside front tyre. We'll see here. Quick replay before Hamilton tries to get past Vettel. oversteer on turn in, went across the grass, and then came across and blocked Hamilton. I think that was just about fair enough. And where are they on track? And Hamilton's dropped back a bit, so Hamilton must have locked up again, but he does have DRS, but Vettel is on the absolute edge right now of what he can do. That was you have to say, Nib, very, very scary moment for Ferrari and Vettel.
I was just having a quick little sip of my water, and as I seen him there, I just wanted to just go as that happened, but of course that wouldn't have been good, and that wouldn't have been smart, as water would have ended up all, as we're seeing a replay. Oh, that's so close with Vettel and Hamilton. Vettel just defended fair enough, and as you can see, Toto, he's not very happy, is Toto there. So we've got Max Verstappen now coming into the pit lane, making his first pit stop of the race, and he will be very close with Daniel Ricciardo. That is for sure. I'm not sure why we're saying a 1.8 second pit stop. The pit stop has not even taken place yet, FOM. But where will he be compared to Daniel Ricciardo? We're seeing a Ferrari.
Ricciardo's ahead.
Mechanic. Ricciardo is just there. That's Hulkenberg, and Verstappen is behind both Renaults.
So both Renaults ahead of Max Verstappen, so it's really going to heat up things now this race as Hamilton takes on Vettel, and Verstappen now has to pass both Renaults if he wants a top 5 finish or possibly a go at Valtteri Bottas later on. But there you go as Hamilton laps the Toro Rosso's fallen slightly back behind Vettel, but can still catch him back up. But I think Hamilton, and I think someone just said in the chat, and it's true, Hamilton smells blood. He smells possible mistakes, possible issues up ahead, and all he needs is a slight enough gap to get through. I do, though, want to see Hamilton's on board to see if Vettel unfairly pushed him up against the wall. I don't think he did, but I would like to see Hamilton's on board. Because it did get very close.
I think it was very cheeky by Vettel.
Yeah, it looked very close. There you go. Oh, that looks very... Here we go. On board of Hamilton. We'll see now. So, Vettel goes wide. Hamilton... I think that's just about okay. Because you have to remember that's not an overtaking spot. Hamilton, I don't think, would have made the move. So I think that's just about okay. Only just, though.
Yeah, that's right on the line. It wasn't super, super dangerous because, yeah, as you said, it's not exactly an overtaking space. There was... it's under investigation. It is under investigation, but I don't think that Sebastian should be penalised for that. I think that he could have done more to prevent it being that close, but I think that was right on the limit. There was no contact, and I think that we should move on from that. I assume that investigation will finish up quite quickly.
And here is Max Verstappen on Hulkenberg. Down the inside, not even a contest. Hulkenberg is on the old hard tyres, and Verstappen is on new... Well, not fresh mediums, but a lot fresher tyres than Hulkenberg's. And now he'll probably pass Ricciardo pretty soon.
I think we might have a bit of a spicy battle coming up there.
Yeah, we definitely will. Daniel Ricciardo will defend as much as possible. You can bet your bottom dollar on that, as Hamilton does have DRS on Vettel, but is too far behind at the moment. But I will say, I really hope the FIA don't give him a penalty. I really hope they don't, because I think that'd honestly ruin the rest of the race, because I think we are in for a great end to this race. So hopefully nothing happens there, because I think it would ruin an epic final 18 laps. As by the way, guys, we are on lap 52 out of 70 here in Montreal. Hamilton only 0.8 of a second behind. And yeah, I would be really disappointed if they... And there is the race stewards, and Vettel and Hamilton under investigation. We're seeing again. There is the race stewards on the screen. But yeah, I hope they don't. As Verstappen has passed Ricciardo off screen.
Yeah, I was just about to mention.
So Verstappen up to Verstappen's flying. He's 13 as Hamilton locks up again at the hairpin and loses half a second. Will he have DRS? I don't think he will. No, he doesn't. So we'll drop back for now. And here is the replay of Hamilton's lockup. But I don't think Max Verstappen will catch Bottas because Valtteri is about 13.5 seconds ahead. Fastest lap for Sebastian Vettel, a 1:14.9. Will Hamilton catch back up? We'll have to see.
Might I just say, if Ferrari hadn't, I don't know what on earth they were doing, quite honestly, with Charles Leclerc. If they had not, sorry, if they had pitted Charles Leclerc at the same time, Lewis Hamilton even, it would be a three-way scrap for the lead right now.
Yeah, it probably would. Leclerc is catching, but not quick enough to actually get involved. He is catching, but very, very slowly. Only a tenth or two per lap. As Hamilton, so far on this lap, is not catching Vettel. Here's a replay of Verstappen, and yeah, no contest. DRS wide open, and gets into P5. And I think Max Verstappen will finish P5. I don't see him catching Bottas unless he does an amazingly great final, what is going to be 16 laps here in Canada, as we're about to start lap 54 out of 70. And we start it right now. The lap 54 out of 70 here in Montreal. And at the moment, we're kind of waiting to see if Hamilton can catch back up, but also what will happen with the investigation? What will happen with the investigation? Will they give a penalty to Vettel? I think it'd be harsh if they did, but you never know, they could. By the way, just saw someone in the chat say, do you think Vettel or do you think Max can catch Bottas? I don't think so. And Valtteri Bottas has just done the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, so that's an absolute no. So yeah, I don't think that'll happen as Bottas does a 14.8. And Hamilton is quicker on this lap by, I think, about a tenth and a half.
About by half a second, actually.
Oh, by half a second. Right, so, and Vettel, who's he got to lap next? They've just lapped Carlos Sainz. Now they're lapping someone else pretty soon. And it's a Williams. I don't know which one it is. But they'll be lapping him pretty soon. I'm just trying to see if there's any other battles on track. There isn't. The only battle right now really is Vettel and Hulkenberg. Vettel and Hulkenberg. Vettel and Hamilton. Ricciardo and Hulkenberg, though, are about the same gap between those two compared to Vettel and Hamilton, about 1.3 seconds. I am now going to quickly post a picture of that incident of Vettel and Hamilton so you guys can see what we are talking about. And I think Kevin Magnussen at this point is probably pleading with his team to retire the car, because look, he's even behind Rosso by almost a pit stop. There is something majorly wrong with his car, no doubt about it. And Vettel, look, pulling away even more from Hamilton. Is the battle over? Who knows?
I think those lockups might just be adding up for Lewis Hamilton. Of course, he locked up about probably 5 or 6 times on the right front. So very, very poor by Hamilton locking up. Of course, very easy to do, but I wouldn't be surprised, as we've got 15 laps to go now in the Grand Prix. We're on lap 56 of 70. I would not be surprised if Hamilton did close back up. But Kevin Magnussen just said, "This is the worst experience I've ever had in any race car, ever."
Wow. That is, well, if that isn't throwing in the towel, I don't know what it is. By the way, we've just hit our record viewership. I've just seen we're on 1,654 viewers. Guys, thank you very much for watching the race watch along here for the 2019 Canadian Grand Prix. Of course, hasn't finished yet, and we've still got plenty of time to go. As Nib said, 15 laps to go. But I just want to thank you guys a lot for breaking that record. And if you are new to the channel, of course, don't forget to subscribe, as we do this every single race weekend. And also, don't forget to hit this video with a like if you want to see this content continue. But Hamilton, I think, is slightly faster on this lap. Probably a tenth or two as he comes to the line. Maybe, though, maybe the reason he's dropped back is maybe they think that Vettel will get a penalty for this incident you can see on the screen. Maybe they think that's going to get Vettel penalised. Who knows? I don't think he will get penalised, but you never know.
In my honest opinion, it'd be a disgrace if he got penalised.
Yeah.
As Gunter Steiner, this was his response to Kevin Magnussen. Apparently, he gave Kevin Magnussen quite a roast. He said, "It's not nice for us as well. Enough means enough." So Gunter, as he usually does, he gave K-Mag a bit of a roast.
Yeah, well, Gunter doesn't like it when his drivers complain too much. If you watch the Netflix series, you'll know that. But as Hamilton, look again, runs wide, he really is struggling at the hairpin and just lost, I think, almost a second at the hairpin. So Hamilton really struggling at that corner.
Sebastian Vettel's got a 5-second penalty.
Oh, no. Time penalty. Sebastian Vettel, 5 seconds, I guess, for forcing another driver, not off the track, but for you unsafely re-entering and forcing another driver off the track. Well, he wasn't off the track, so that's wrong. But that, I have to say, that's disgraceful. That is disgraceful.
That's ridiculous.
That is honestly ridiculous. And here we go. So Vettel, again, oversteer on turn-in, comes across the grass. I don't see how that's a 5-second penalty.
Still fighting the car as he's coming back on track. Oh, that is utterly ridiculous. That is utterly.
Well,
the FIA, hold your head in shame. You've just ruined what has been an absolutely fantastic race. That is ridiculous.
Well, let's not get too ahead of ourselves, because Vettel now, I assume if he has any power left, he'll try now and grow that gap. And look, 14.8, new fastest lap by Sebastian Vettel, and the gap is now 3 seconds. So Vettel can still win, but without a doubt, that is a disgraceful penalty. That's not a penalty. And by the way, I can't believe they said forcing another driver off the track when he wasn't off the track. The white lines define the racetrack, and I don't think Hamilton was off it.
Because there's a bloody wall there.
Exactly.
Christ almighty.
If he forces him off the track, surely that means that Hamilton is pushed into the wall then, if they think he's pushed off the track. Yeah, that just doesn't make any sense to me. As we're on now lap 59 out of 70. Charles Leclerc does a new fastest lap at 14.6 and is now 8.5 seconds behind Hamilton. So I think they probably want Leclerc to take the victory if Vettel can't get it. Hamilton is reclosing the gap. But that is the situation, as Hulkenberg, by the way, all over the back of Ricciardo. If I was Renault, I'd call team orders on this one, because they are about to get a P6 and P7 finish. And that is what? 14 points that they desperately need. So if I was Renault, honestly, I'd call team orders on that one. But yeah, Sebastian Vettel, if you're just joining us, has a 5-second time penalty for the incident you can see on the screen for apparently unsafely re-entering the track and forcing another driver off the track, which is complete rubbish as far as I'm concerned. Because another thing, how else can Vettel re-enter the track? He can't go anywhere else, and that is the racing line. So I don't see what he could have done differently. I don't understand.
Absolutely ridiculous.
I don't understand what they thought he could have done differently to avoid doing what he did. I just don't get that. As Vettel on lap 60 out of 70 is 2.5 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton, but that's a terrible decision. Terrible decision. They really ruined the end of this race. Who's that in the pits? Is that Kimi?
That is Kimi.
Yeah, that is Kimi on the soft compound tyre, pitting from P13. So let me... go on.
Sorry, I'll just quickly read out what Sebastian Vettel said when reacting to his race engineer breaking him the news that he had a 5-second time penalty. He said, "I had nowhere to go. Seriously, I didn't see him." And of course, Hamilton was about a second behind him before he made that mistake. He went across the grass. Sorry, he was catching the car and caught the slide, and I'm stunned by that decision by the FA. That's an absolutely disgraceful penalty, and I think we could see a bit of a breakdown like Sebastian Vettel did have at Hungary when he got a penalty for being, I think it was 10 car lengths behind the safety car, behind Mark Webber behind the safety car, and Vettel is on the team radio right now, and I'm sure that he's going to be absolutely livid.
He should be. That's a disgraceful decision. It really is. He couldn't have done anything differently. He couldn't have re-entered at really a different point. And again, it wasn't forcing another driver of the track because off the track is in the wall at that point of the circuit. And there are the stewards. I don't know who they are exactly, but I do not agree at all. I really don't agree, and they've really ruined the end of this race. Unless Hamilton has an issue or Vettel builds the gap, Vettel is not going to win this race. He's going to finish in second. My prediction for the race will come true, but not in a way I wanted it to. Absolutely disgraceful decision by the FIA. Hulkenberg, by the way, has dropped over a second behind. Here's another replay. So watch this. So Vettel turns in, oversteer on entry. How can he go anywhere else? He was actually trying to turn more so left once he got properly back on the track. How was he supposed to do anything differently there? And by the way, Hamilton had enough time to put his car in a position not to be up against the wall if he didn't want to, but he decided to go there anyway. By the way, we've broke our viewership record by even more. We're now on 1,700, I think. How can Vettel do anything differently? It doesn't make any sense. If that was the hairpin with that long runoff, then I guess you have a point. But there's nowhere else for him to go. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And that's really destroyed, as you said, Nib, a great race today. A great battle up ahead has been destroyed by a terrible decision. As Vettel
ruining racing. That's
absolutely
ridiculous. They've ruined this race. They've completely ruined this race, and I don't know how on earth you can legislate from a penalty. That might be the most ridiculous penalty I've ever seen given to a driver. The man went on the grass, was catching the car. It's not like he actually forced Hamilton into the wall. Hamilton never ever going to get past Vettel in that situation. He realised that. He backed out of it, and they've given him a ridiculous penalty, and Sebastian Vettel's just come on the radio saying they are stealing the race from us. And quite honestly, they have stolen this race from Sebastian Vettel. He obviously made the mistake, but he did nothing wrong in trying to get his car back on the track as safely as possible. And that is an absolute outrage.
It is, and it's completely ruined the race for me because now I wouldn't say I'm not interested in this race, but we know what the result's going to be now. It takes away the drama. It takes away, the drama of, a possible late race winning move. Because now Hamilton is, a second behind Vettel, and Vettel has to build a 5-second lead, and he's not going to do it. He's not going to do it. By the way, thank you to StillORise4485 for a super chat for $2 that is. Says, gang, Chaz, let's go. Thank you very much. I know you're very happy because you're a Lewis Hamilton fan, but yeah, I don't agree with that decision. But now we'll see what's going to happen as Charles Leclerc does a new fastest lap, a 1:14.3. What I'm going to do, by the way, is keep this picture on the screen because this pretty much is going to be the lasting image of this race. As Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton lapping Pierre Gasly. Let that sink in for just a moment.
And we also did miss that Alexander Albon has retired Grand Prix.
Yep, he has. I don't know why, but he has retired. I thought he pitted for a late pit stop, but it appears he hasn't. But Hamilton now has DRS. I don't understand why Hamilton, would go for a move at this point, because he doesn't have to. But yeah, as now, yeah, so Albon is out of this Grand Prix, and we are now on lap 65 out of 70. 5 laps to go. Vettel has to build a 5-second gap to win, and he won't do so because he doesn't have enough speed over Hamilton to do that. And actually, at this point of the Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton is faster. Maybe Hamilton wants to win it on track. Maybe Hamilton thinks it's unfair. But again, he doesn't have to go for the move. And that's what really the disgrace is, that we get this really took away from us. A great battle between two great drivers of the sport. So, yeah, as Leclerc is actually closing on Hamilton, but not enough to beat Lewis Hamilton and to take the win for Ferrari. Ferrari, they're going to be denied their first win by a disgraceful penalty for Sebastian Vettel. And Davey says, and it's true, at least you guys hit 1,700 viewers today. Yeah, that is very, very positive. And again, thank you guys a lot for that. I really, really do appreciate it. We both appreciate it a lot for you guys willing to watch along the race with us. And hopefully you'll come back and do the same in 2 weeks in France. But now we are on lap 66 out of 70. I'm just trying to look at the order, see if there's any changes. There is not. Yeah, Hamilton now behind Vettel. But again, Vettel has the penalty, so Hamilton doesn't have to do anything. All he has to do is sit there in his DRS and he'll win the Grand Prix. And I'm sure the team will be telling him that. Right, let me look at the rest of the field. So you got Leclerc third, catching, but not enough. Valtteri Bottas is P4. Max Verstappen is P5. Then you got Ricciardo P6 and Hülkenberg P7. You have to say Renault, great race today. And then Gasly, Sainz and Stroll finishing the points. At the moment, you never know, there could be a late retirement. We've had it before. A couple years ago, Fernando Alonso retired, I think, from P8 in the order on the final lap or the penultimate lap. So we could still have late drama, but it is unlikely, as here is Lance Stroll on Carlos Sainz for P9. And not going for the move as of yet, but he might get the move done down into turn 1.
The bus is being parked there.
Absolutely. Opens the DRS. Will he make the move on Sainz? No, he's not close enough, but Lance Stroll is right there for a possible P9. And by the way, this is very important for the constructors, because remember, McLaren are P4, Racing Point are P5 in the Constructors' Championship. So if Stroll can make a move, this could be vital for the end of the season if Racing Point are to improve their car and really go for P4 in the Constructors. At the moment, Vettel is leading the driver of the day. And Ricciardo is second and Hamilton third. I pretty much agree with that for the moment. As Hülkenberg has a problem, does he? Or is he just letting the cars through? I think he's letting the cars through. Thank God for Renault. That looked very scary indeed. As Sebastian Vettel.
Don't put that thought in my mind.
Yep, I am not going to. So Sebastian Vettel now starts lap 68 out of 70. 3 laps to go. That's 2 including this one. As they now come through. Oh, and here comes Stroll round the outside of Carlos Sainz into the final chicane. And great move by Lance Stroll up to P9. And Kvyat's there for P10. Can Kvyat get the move done? Down the inside, Kvyat, and he does. McLaren are out of the points. Great move by Danny Kvyat. Late drama. And here is Stroll, gets the move done round the outside. Great move by Lance. Carlos tried his best to defend, but couldn't. And then Kvyat got a great run out of the final chicane because Sainz was on the inside of the corner.
Well, that was a brilliant little part of racing there. That was a fantastic move first by Stroll, and then an even better one by Danny Kvyat. And great commentating by you on that one. But that was good. And at the way this is going at the moment, Sebastian Vettel will probably finish in P3 because Charles Leclerc is closing that gap. He has to close just, I think, 2.5 more seconds. I say just. But he is quite a bit quicker than Vettel at the moment. So Vettel could still finish in P3.
I don't think he will though, because I think Leclerc won't have enough to do that, and I think it'd be pretty harsh if Ferrari let Leclerc catch that gap. By the way, Valtteri Bottas, you have to say, very poor today. Look at that, 47 seconds behind.
Just pit.
Or is he just pit?
He just pit so they can do this fastest lap.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that is very, very poor. As Hamilton, look how close he is to Vettel now. But again, this doesn't mean anything, as we're now on the penultimate lap as Ricciardo moves over to let the leaders through. And yeah, Hamilton would be an idiot to pass Vettel at this point because he's going to win. Maybe he'll go for the move to put on a show, but it is highly unnecessary. And yeah, Vettel now comes through the final chicane, and now we start the final lap of the 2019 Canadian Grand Prix. A very controversial one, and the final lap has now been begun. As Hamilton is set to win, and Vettel, I guarantee you, is going to be so pissed off when he gets out the car for that penalty. And Leclerc is not close enough, I think, to get inside that 5-second barrier.
1.5 seconds he's off Vettel.
Yeah, as they're now into turn 8. And now through the 8 and 9 chicane, now up to turn 10. Might as well put Hamilton as the first place man, because that is what is going to be the case. As Vettel now comes through the hairpin. Vettel, you have to say, the absolute worthy winner and the real winner of the 2019 Canadian Grand Prix is Sebastian Vettel, as Valtteri Bottas does a new lap record of a 1:13 flat. Here comes Vettel round the final chicane and comes to the line to rightfully win the race, but doesn't literally win the race, as Lewis Hamilton wins it from Sebastian Vettel. It says Vettel wins, but he doesn't. So Hamilton has won from Vettel in second, and Leclerc will be, I'm pretty sure, in P3, and then it'll be Bottas P4, Max Verstappen P5, Ricciardo P6, Hülkenberg P7, Gasly P8, Stroll P9, and Kvyat P10. And then not finishing in the points, but finishing the race, Sainz, Perez, Giovinazzi, Raikkonen, Grosjean, and then the two Williamses in the Haas are at the back, and then Albon and Norris are your only retirements. But there you go. The race is over, and sorry if I sound a bit down and depleted, but honestly, that penalty really ruined the end of that race for me. As Hamilton takes the victory. And I will say again, the rightful winner of the 2019 Canadian Grand Prix absolutely are Ferrari and Sebastian Vettel. No doubt about it whatsoever. Not even a doubt about it. So there you go. Nib, what did you think then of the 2019 Canadian Grand Prix? Good enough? It wasn't as good as we thought it would be, but there were some talking points.
Well, there certainly have been a few talking points. That was a brilliant race. That was so tense. The FIA completely robbed us of what was going to be a fantastic and thrilling end to this Grand Prix. We've been robbed. We've all been robbed as a great of a great finish. I don't care if you're a Lewis Hamilton fan, a Sebastian Vettel fan, a Mercedes, a Ferrari fan. We should all be disgusted by what has just happened today. That is absolutely disgusting what has just happened. Absolutely disgusting. That is never, never, ever, ever, ever a penalty. And the way that they've just completely and utterly ruined this race. That was a fantastic Canadian Grand Prix. That could have been one of the best battles to finish the race for a battle for the win. But no, it's been completely ruined. Ridiculous.
As Vettel stops on the entry to the pit lane, I think he might have ran out of fuel. I don't know, but or he's well desperately unhappy. But here's the man on your screen. Has won the race. Lewis Hamilton drove well today, Hamilton, but definitely was not the deserving winner of the Grand Prix. And by the way, as you guys know, I do an incident analysis of the Canadian of races, the day after, and I will do so tomorrow. And we will look at that incident, and I will, share why I feel the way I do. But yet the race is now over, and the running order running along the bottom of your screen is the finishing order for this Grand Prix. By the way, again, thank you guys so much for the viewership. Cannot thank you guys enough. It's just great that so many of you are willing to watch us during a Grand Prix, and we cannot thank you enough. And again, don't forget to subscribe if you are new for more content like this, as we'll do the same for the French Grand Prix, and of course every Grand Prix in 2019. But we are now going to read the live chat for probably the next 20 to 30 minutes. Then I'll quickly do a end of stream review that will go up as the race review for this Grand Prix. And then we'll come off in probably 35 to 40 minutes time. But I'm going to quickly have a drink. And then I'm going to get to reading your comments in the live chat, guys. Let us know what you thought of the race, and also what happened in the race and the Vettel-Hamilton controversy. Let us know in the chat, and we'll read out your comments as to what happened. Right. So let's see what you guys have to say. Let me find some comments. By the way, and Davey says we had over 1,800 watching at one point. I will admit, as Sebastian Vettel, did he go to the stewards then? I don't know. I think he is.
I think Sebastian Vettel is out of here. I don't think he's going to be seeing anyone after that.
I think Vettel won't even be on the podium. He's doing a... did Gilles Villeneuve? I don't think Gilles Villeneuve did it that time at Imola. I think Prost did once at Imola in 1989. But I think Vettel will be on the soonest flight back to Berlin, and will be out of here because I don't blame him at all. What happened there was, for me, a disgrace. But yeah, apparently we had 1,800 viewers at most. So yeah, that's great. My viewership numbers have kind of stalled at some points because it's a bit delayed. So I wouldn't have been able to see that. But if that is true, thank you very, very much. Right. Let's see what you guys have to say then. I'll try and read out as many as I can as they scroll past at record speed. Nick Dubbin says the FIA's decision is like standing on Lego. Paul M. Vettel is going to complain. I totally understand him. Vettel skipping podium. Yep, and I don't blame him whatsoever. I would do the exact same. He'll probably get fined for it, but he earns enough money to pay it. Let me find some more comments. Mike C says I'm officially done with F1. Nuggets, possibly the worst decision of the last decade. It's up there. I'd have to think of the others and really, sit down and look at the other decisions as to, what the worst are of the last decade, as Vettel now storms into the Ferrari motorhome. And I wouldn't be surprised if he completely trashes his driver room. Hi, sorry, missed the race. I know something controversial happened. What happened? Basically, Vettel and Hamilton racing hard for the lead. Vettel went wide at turn 4, went across the grass, and rejoined, and Hamilton tried to go around the outside, but he couldn't because Vettel's car was there. But Vettel got a 5-second penalty for unsafely re-entering the track and forcing another driver off the track, which is complete rubbish. Complete rubbish, honestly. Complete rubbish. Henry says Vettel has the right to complain. Mystic Mac says Vettel tries to force Lewis into the wall. No way does he. He does not try to force Lewis into the wall. He can't go anywhere else but bar there. Roma, Vettel. Hold on, it just scrolled up. I can't read that anymore. That's unfortunate. Almost Ferrari, almost. Crystal Racing says I hate F1 so much. If Charlie was still here, no penalty. Can I be honest? I think since what's the guy's name? The new director that was at the Australian Grand Prix. He's now the new FIA race director. I can't remember his name, but
I've forgotten my fellow Australian's name.
Yeah. It's not necessarily because of him, but I've noticed ever since Charlie Whiting sadly passed away, the FIA decision making has got worse from the stewards. Now that might be to do with Charlie Whiting not being there, and he was a great mind and could really make most of the time, great decisions, as the FIA have now got Vettel to come to the podium. Yeah, he was good, Whiting, at seeing no bias and making the correct decision most of the time. He made bad decisions, no doubt about it, like some track extending ones or corner cutting ones, but I don't see how he would commit, or not commit, but I don't think if he was there this would happen, honestly. Right, let me find some more comments. Michael Hamill says, sad day for F1. Lots of hashtag 44s. By the way, when we, criticise the decision, remember, we're not hating on Mercedes or Lewis Hamilton or anything like that. Lewis drove well today. Mercedes did well today, considering where they qualified and how they did. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, and in Nib's opinion, we disagree with... and Vettel replaces the board ahead of Hamilton's car and puts P2 ahead of it. And yeah, that's the best and coolest way to go out ahead of those fans. But yeah, in my and Nib's opinion, that penalty is BS. Complete BS. So, if you guys have a different opinion, make sure to share it and also share it tomorrow. But in, mine and Nib's opinion, it wasn't a penalty. And I'm going to try tomorrow, when I can look at the screenshots, I'm going to try and illustrate why, for me and for Nib as well, it's not a penalty. Right, let me find some more comments. Patrick asks, is it possible for Ferrari and Seb to appeal? I don't know. I think they can, but I don't think it will end up in a way that Vettel gets the win back. As Sebastian now comes to the podium cooldown room, shakes Lewis Hamilton's hand. By the way, Nib, was Lewis Hamilton? Does anyone know if Lewis Hamilton was complaining on team radio about it? Because I don't think he did.
I absolutely have no idea.
Yeah, I don't think he did. I don't think I saw his team radio thing appear. I think it was probably the pit wall at Mercedes that got onto the FIA about a possible penalty.
Well, we've seen Toto Wolff immediately, as it happened, he was disgusted by it and was immediately on the radio to the FIA complaining about it. So certainly Mercedes complained about it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had the investigation.
Yeah, they sure did. Right, let me find. There's plenty of people saying Vettel deserved the penalty. Let me know why. Again, we're willing to hear different opinions. We're going to probably disagree, but we are willing to hear different opinions. Samuel Pro says big race for Renault. Yeah, I just want to mention that. Of course, Nib, you're a massive Ricciardo fan for obvious reasons, but great race for Renault. And do you think that'll become a common thing now for Renault, or do you think it's just based on this track?
Well, I think it's one of the tracks where we didn't expect Renault to do fantastically well, but this is where Renault should be. They should be up in that 7th or 8th spot. So I think Renault done a very good job today, and that's where we should expect them to see, like, should expect them to be in the races to come. I know that for the French Grand Prix, they've got a lot of upgrades coming, so I really expect Renault to continue to improve in the races to come.
Yeah, Renault, they do have an upgrade for the French Grand Prix, and Vettel there kind of standing on the first place of the podium. But yeah, Renault, hopefully that becomes the norm now. I don't think it necessarily will, because the next track we go to is a lot different to this track and will suit a different type of race car. But if Renault can do that on a consistent basis, then they'll be fine for the rest of the season. That is the type of pace and performance we wanted to see from Renault in 2019. That's what we want to see from Renault, and what we were hopefully expecting to see. If they can do that consistently for this year and then improve, the next few races, months, years, then they should get to where they want to be. But that type of performance that they put in this weekend has not been a consistent thing. I mean, they've only had 2 races this season where I'd say Renault were good, and that was Shanghai and then this weekend. So they've got to make that a consistent, a consistent thing. If they are to finish P4 in the constructors, which they absolutely have to, get if they are to have a successful season. Matteo Binotto, they're coming through the crowd. By the way, the Drivers' Championship gap is, I believe, 19 points. I think, not 19, 29 points in Lewis Hamilton's favour. And I think Hamilton will now start to romp away in the Drivers' Championship. Simply Valtteri, I'm afraid, is a good driver, but I don't think he is quite World Championship level to pull off a championship victory. Bruce Siegel, good points for Ferrari. I think we do have to mention that also, Nib, that this weekend Ferrari, again, have been robbed of victory like they were back in Bahrain. But you have to say Ferrari really having a great weekend, and hopefully, once we get to another track that is similar, say like Austria, hopefully Ferrari can reproduce that form and that pace and be as quick as they were. But yeah, good weekend for Ferrari, wasn't it?
Yeah, certainly Ferrari's certainly probably second best weekend of the season. Sebastian was fast all weekend. Well, certainly from Saturday onwards. Friday they weren't that great, but Saturday they made a few setup changes in qualifying. Seb put in a great lap. He deserved to win the race today. He drove a fantastic race, of course, made that mistake. Caught the car, did nothing wrong, got a penalty, and he's just been given 2 penalty points to his super for the incident as well. So, there you go. There you go.
2 penalty points. I mean, even if you think it's a penalty, wasn't that bad. But there you go.
I'll read you what the stewards have just said. The stewards viewed video evidence determined that car 5, or Sebastian Vettel, left the track at turn 3, rejoined the track at turn 4 in an unsafe manner, and forced car 44 off the track. Car 44 had to take evasive action to avoid a collision. Absolute nonsense.
How is he forced off track? He's not off track. If he's off track, he's in the wall. How do they not understand that? How? I don't get their reasoning there. And again, with the re-entry, where else is he supposed to go? He can't really go anywhere else. It's a very tight piece of racetrack, it is. You know, turn 4 and turn 5, really tight piece of racetrack. It's rare you can get two cars through that part of the track side by side because the cars are so wide and because that part of the track is so tight. So what can Vettel do, really? I don't think Vettel could have done any more, really, in that incident to avoid putting his car where he did. So, yeah, really not a good decision, in my opinion, and Nib's opinion, from the FIA. Right. Let me read out some more comments. By the way, I'm just waiting for the race results to appear on Twitter. Then I'll post it on the screen and get rid of the running order graphic that is still there, so you guys can see the gaps and all that stuff. But we're currently still waiting for that. Once I get that, then I'll start to set up the review part at the end of this stream. DF King Amar says, I'm a Mercedes fan and Vettel should have won. Vettel didn't win, but I think deservedly Sebastian Vettel should have won and was, for me, the rightful winner. Of course, he didn't win the race. Lewis Hamilton won the race, and that is a fact. But the rightful winner of that race, in my opinion, and in Nib's opinion, is Sebastian Vettel and Ferrari. Let me quickly post a picture, actually, of the podium and show you how unhappy the drivers, even Lewis Hamilton, didn't look that happy. So let me quickly get it on screen. And there you go. But Nib, is there anything else that we should mention out there? I think Lance Stroll is a person we should mention. From P17 to P9, that's pretty great, isn't it?
Very, very impressive by Lance Stroll. Of course, he has had one or two very good races so far this season, where he has come from pretty far back, because of course he's not made it out of Q1 so far this season and got into the points. So once again, a very good performance by Lance Stroll. He did a very good job on the hard tyre in the first stint, and then did a very good job on the medium tyre at the end of the race to get past Carlos Sainz. And yeah, he did a fantastic job. Did Lance Stroll, and he absolutely deserves that P9 at his home Grand Prix.
He does, and I think that is his second points finish at his home track. I think in 2017, I think he finished P9 as well. And I'm seeing a replay again of Vettel. Again, I don't understand where he could go. And here's a replay of Hamilton's on board. That's not a penalty. Wow. It's not a penalty.
He took massive evasive action by braking. We've seen, I think we all remember when Max Verstappen a couple of years ago was very dangerous in defending in a straight line. Kimi Räikkönen had to take evasive action to not to avoid a collision. Obviously, it's different circumstances because Sebastian's coming back on the track, but that's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, when I look at that again, it doesn't look like a penalty to me. It just doesn't. And again, Hamilton, he had enough time to see it coming. And as you said, with the whole Raikkonen and Verstappen stuff that happened, the last couple years, Kimi didn't really have that much time to react to Max's dangerous moves. Hamilton had plenty of time to see Vettel go off the track. And surely Lewis knew that Vettel was not just going to park on the outside of the track and let him through. Surely he knew that, and Hamilton would have done the exact same thing. And I think any racing driver out there would have done the same thing as Vettel, because they're racing for position. That's what you do. If you go off the track, you need to get right back onto racing line and get away again, and not lose time or massive amounts of time in the way he did. Let me just see if there's more comments about this. Say Rugara saying, I think the penalty was correct. Let me know why in the chat. So many comments flashing past. Still so many people watching. Still got like 1,000, I believe, people watching us live. But yeah, keep on reacting with us, guys, to what happened. And we'll read out more of your comments. Let me find some more here. I'm just trying to see. Again, they're flashing by so quickly. The stock Carstig says, if Vettel was going significantly slower, he may have deserved the penalty. You don't get back on the racing line going 30 mile an hour slower. Daniel Thompson says, it doesn't matter. Vettel left the track and cannot just rejoin blocking another car. I don't think he really massively blocked Hamilton. And then it says, sorry, those are the rules. Well, I don't think the FIA have correctly applied them. Because if you go off at that point of the track, where are you really supposed to go? And again, if he did force Hamilton off the track like they say, then Hamilton presumably would have been in the wall. But he wasn't. He wasn't in the wall. He was still able to continue and do his thing. So, and Hamilton again had plenty of time to react to Vettel putting his car there. Plenty of time. Right, let me see if I can get these results on the screen for you guys, because I want to try and do so pretty quickly so you guys can see the full results of the 2019 Canadian Grand Prix. And Vettel, by the way, has been made driver of the day. By the way, guys, in the chat, why not? Put in the chat right now, who do you think is driver of the day? I would have to go for Sebastian Vettel, with Daniel Ricciardo second, and then in third, I'd probably go for Lewis Hamilton, because I think he did drive well, even though I don't think he did deserve to win the race. I think he did drive still very, very well. Yeah, let me know in the chat, who's your driver of the day? Sharman LP says Ricciardo. Robert says Vettel. Mystic says Lewis. JB Ricciardo. Robert McPhee says Stroll. Decent shout out. Crystal Racing says Vettel. Uncle Toy Truck suggests Stroll. High Distortion HD says Vettel. Trotter says Hamilton. Frosty says Vettel. J Crail says Hulkenberg. M Demet says Vettel. Frosty says Vettel. I think I read that one out. Will F1 says Vettel. Trotters, I've read that one out. Samar says Seb. Driver of the day. Danny Rick from Lukey. Rob says Vettel. Umbrex says Kvyat. Also, slight shout out to Kvyat because he did have a hard race in that midfield and I think deservedly got a point. So quick shout out for Kvyat. Hannah says Hamilton. Still O'Reilly says Stroll. Hakeem says Hamilton. Stroll, I'm seeing again. Let me try and find some more. Just trying to see if I've missed any. I don't think I have. Nib, driver of the day. For your top 3 drivers of the day, who would you go for?
I think driver of the day for me is Sebastian Vettel. I don't think there'd be much doubt about that. He drove a fantastic race, did nothing wrong. Of course, he made that slight mistake, but it should not have cost him the race victory. Then for me, second drive of the day has to be Daniel Ricciardo. He was fantastic, even though he did just finish ahead of his teammate Nico Hulkenberg. He had a fantastic battle with Valtteri Bottas, and of course was quicker than Bottas for the most of the race. And I think the other driver day, well, third would be Hamilton for me. He did very well, especially in the second stint of that race, to put Vettel under pressure to close that gap from about 5 seconds that it was when Vettel had just pitted and come out. Sorry, when Hamilton had just pitted and come back out behind Vettel, the gap was 5 seconds. So Hamilton did a very good job, and yeah, but for me, quite comfortably, driver of the day has to be Sebastian Vettel.
Yep, I agree. By the way, the results, I think because of the penalty, aren't appearing right now. So what we're going to do is we'll come off the stream. We'll probably end the stream in the next 5 to 10 minutes or so. And then I will try and get that race review for you guys recorded as soon as possible and then put up on the channel, hopefully between 10 and 11 p.m. And then again, tomorrow at 12 o'clock p.m. UK time, you guys can come along. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notifications bell for that video. You can come along for my 2019 Canadian Grand Prix incident analysis, where I will, frame by frame, look at Vettel and Hamilton and that incident and why it's not a penalty in my opinion. So if you want to see my analysis of it, come tomorrow at 12 p.m. UK time, and you can, put in your comments, respond, why you agree, don't agree. Let me know in the comments of that video. But yeah, we'll read out, I think, a final few comments, and then we'll come to the end of the stream here here for the 2019 Canadian Grand Prix. By the way, again, thank you guys very, very much for the stream. Very, very, great numbers. So yeah, thank you a lot for that. Yeah, I'll read out a few comments. Let me just see what the what comments are going in the chat. Mr. Big Ears says racing incident. There was no malice in the incident, or no malice intended. Let me just find some more. By the way, I can see plenty of people saying or criticizing me. Again, it's my opinion. If you disagree, then just post why you disagree. You don't have to throw insults or anything like that. Right, let me find a couple more to finish on, and then I'll get the race review recorded pretty soon. Cavalier Volt says, let's say Lewis had a 5-second penalty and he lost second place due to that incident because he had to brake hard and lost time to Leclerc. Still think Vettel doesn't deserve the penalty. Hold on, so let's say Lewis had a 5-second penalty and he lost second place due to that incident because he had to brake hard. Why would he have a penalty for braking and avoiding Vettel? I don't get what you mean. Crystal Racing, thank you very much. Says stick to what you're doing, great work. Renee says it's totally ridiculous FIA decision. Let me find one final.
I just want to read out a comment if that's okay.
Yeah, go
on. Blend Ink saying, but you're not being objective. I'm not too sure what that is. I'm not too sure what exactly you mean by we're not being objective. It's our own opinion. I support Daniel Ricciardo, right? But I'm not an absolute. I don't have tinfoil over my head. Chaz doesn't support anyone. If anyone, he likes Max Verstappen more than any other driver, right? But what has just happened there is Sebastian Vettel has lost the rear end going into that corner. He has gone across the grass. At that point, you are a passenger. He's done very well to control the car and not go into the wall. He's actually done well to avoid a major incident and causing himself crash out of the race, as we're just seeing on Sky right now. He's trying to correct the mistake, and in doing that, when he comes back on the track, he has to correct the slide because he has just lost a whole load of grip. because he's got grass on his tyres and he's done well to keep it out the wall. He had no idea Lewis Hamilton was there. He's not going to be looking in his mirrors when he's trying to correct his car, to make sure he doesn't go in the wall, because the wall is right there. Lewis Hamilton is in the least of his mind. And Lewis Hamilton did not take avoiding action to get out there. He just broke calmly because he seen what was happening in front of him. And to say that we're not being objective, no, that's just quite simply our opinion, mate. And I think Chaz and I have both said multiple times now, it's a ridiculous opinion. And once Vettel has the car back under control, he points it in a natural line. It's not like he then just goes and continues to squeeze Hamilton into the wall. He never squeezed Hamilton into the wall on purpose. As we're seeing right now, once he corrects it and is back on track, he does everything right to Sebastian Vettel. It's an absolutely disgraceful penalty, and it has marred what has been an absolutely fantastic Canadian Grand Prix.
Yeah, it has. It has. And I think, honestly, we'll end on that controversy. Again, I will get more into it in my incident analysis. I will definitely analyse that. Let me just get rid of some of the text here. So, of course, the race is over. And that is it, guys, for the race watch along for the 2019 Canadian Grand Prix. Great to have you guys along. Yeah, sometimes we disagree on opinion, but, great to have you along anyway, watching this race watch along. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. And also, thank you to all the new subs. We've had a boatload this weekend, and hopefully we can continue to grow the channel in a great way. But yeah, don't forget to subscribe for more watch-alongs like this. Bottom right of the screen, you can subscribe, or go to my homepage, subscribe and hit the notifications bell. And don't forget to like this video as well if you want more content like this. Nib, massive thank you to you for helping out during the stream and giving your thoughts on what happened during the race.
Yes, thanks, mate, for having me on. As usual, of course, very, very early in the morning here in Australia. 4 a.m. the race started, but I love doing this. And thank you for everyone tuning in and giving your support during this race. It was a fantastic race. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining, and I'll see you next time for the podcast next weekend.
Absolutely. I'll get on to the content that's coming up on the channel right now. So, race review will be out in probably an hour's time at most, maybe at 10 o'clock p.m. UK time, we'll see. Then tomorrow, again, incident analysis for the Canadian Grand Prix will be out at 12 p.m. UK time, where I will analyse the incident between Vettel and Hamilton and illustrate my opinion with the screenshots to, supply why I think the way I do. And then I'll take a couple days break, and then I'll be back on Thursday with a new video. And I think that new video will be on Pierre Gasly. I think you guys know what that video will be, and that will be uploaded on Thursday. Then, as Nib said, Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m. UK time, live. Me and Nib, again, be live on the channel for the podcast, previewing the 2019 French Grand Prix. So if you want to preview that race and give your thoughts on what you think is going to happen for the French Grand Prix in a fortnight's time, then come along to that Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m. UK time. And then the week of the French Grand Prix will be two videos. One will be a F1 kind of rumour mill video about the current possible driver transfer rumours around in the sport, and why I think the Nico Hülkenberg to Pierre Gasly story is complete rubbish. And also, I'm going to do a video about the current situation with all the engines and the engine manufacturers, and who is ahead and for what reasons, and how they've done so far in 2019. Then will be the French Grand Prix weekend, and we'll do the same again. And of course, a week after that is Austria, so plenty coming up on the channel through the month of June. But yeah, thank you guys for coming along. And again, don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Also, don't forget to comment down below what you thought of this video and what did you think of the Canadian Grand Prix of 2019. And also, don't forget to join my Discord, link below in the description. That is the best place, that server, for notifications, my videos and streams. And also, it is the hardcore Chaz HDF1 community. And that is very active on a race weekend. And it has been very active this weekend. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Chaz6110 and check out my website, chazahd.com, for more content like this. But guys, until my next video tomorrow, and of course the race review coming out in about an hour's time, until the next live stream next Saturday previewing the 2019 French Grand Prix for the podcast, and until the next race, the 2019 French Grand Prix from Paul Ricard in France, it has been me, Chaz HD. Goodbye.